Chapter 820. If he did not understand Black Wolf and Chanrui's methods, Su Zimo would definitely be flustered if he was suddenly attacked by Essence Spirit's secret skills. However, he had experienced the might of Essence Spirit's secret skills in the past, and had already come up with a way to deal with them. With a single thought, streams of golden light extended from Su Zimo's left wrist in a sacred and flawless manner, forming an indestructible barrier around him. Boom! Clang! Clang! In midair, Black Wolf, who was condensed from his spirit consciousness, collided against the barrier. Two curved sabers that were as thin as cicada wings slashed against the barrier with a loud sound. The golden barrier trembled endlessly and ripples appeared one after another. The golden barrier managed to defend against the two Essence Spirit secret skills. This, Black Wolf and Chanrui's expressions changed starkly. Ordinary dermic weapons could defend against dermic arts, weapons, and many other forces. However, they could not defend against the power of Essence Spirits. Against Essence Spirit secret skills, one had to either defend against them with the power of Essence Spirit, or use special Essence Spirit dermic weapons. However, Essence Spirit dermic weapons were way too rare and difficult to refine. Even in the cultivation world, they were extremely rare, let alone in the world of demons. In fact, they were even rarer than connate dermic weapons. Now that the golden barrier blocked their Essence Spirit secret skills, it meant that the person opposite them possessed an Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Furthermore, that Essence Spirit dermic weapon was extremely powerful. This person was only at the nascent soul realm, and yet, he was able to defend against their combined attacks with that Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Black Wolf and Chanrui were right. Indeed, Su Zimo had an Essence Spirit dermic weapon in his possession. The dermic weapon was given to him by the old monk at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. It was the cornerstone treasure of Daming Monastery in the past, the Mingwang prayer beads. Initially, there were 6 Mingwang prayer beads, and they were worn by the titular disciple of Daming Monastery, Monk Daming. However, with the passage of time, the world had changed and Monk Daming had long passed away. This string of Mingwang prayer beads had been passed around and only 4 of them were left. They had become incomplete. Even so, the 4 Mingwang prayer beads were not to be underestimated. In the Jindan realm, it was still difficult for Su Zimo to control the Mingwang prayer beads. He could only wear them on his wrist, which could block the probing of some divine senses. It was not until he cultivated his primordial spirit that he was able to use some of the power of the Mingwang prayer beads. Of course, he would only be able to unleash the true power of the Mingwang prayer beads after reaching the return to void stage. Now, the Mingwang prayer beads could only be used to defend his primordial spirit. But this was already enough. It was enough to withstand the Essence Soul secret techniques of the 2 territorial lords of Howling Moon Mountain. The battlefield was constantly changing. The fact that Black Wolf and Chanrui's Essence Spirit secret skills were ineffective meant that they would have to endure Su Zimo's suffocating melee attacks. Bang! 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 A series of noises could be heard. Figures were sent flying and swayed repeatedly. In less than 10 breaths, Black Wolf and Chanrui were sent flying one after another, slamming heavily against the stone walls behind them and sliding down slowly. Su Zimo stood not far away from them silently. His eyes were clear and his clothes were spotless and neat, as though he had not attacked at all. It was a complete defeat. Black Wolf and Chanrui's faces were pale, and they felt as though their tendons and bones were about to crack. However, they grit their teeth and did not make a single sound. Both of them looked at Su Zimo with conflicted expressions. They were smart and could clearly sense that just now, this person was holding back intentionally. Otherwise, given his methods, it would have been extremely easy for him to kill them after seizing the initiative. Suddenly, Black Wolf thought of something and felt a sense of trepidation. If he just now had gone back on his words and given the order to kill this person, he would have been a corpse lying on the ground by now. At the same time that he pardoned Su Zimo, he was also pardoning himself. In reality, Black Wolf's thoughts were not far from the truth. That was indeed the reason why Su Zimo came this time round. They wanted to take over the mountain but did not have any helpers under their command. Naturally, it would be for the best if he could take in Black Wolf and Chanrui without bloodshed. Bronze Bull's mouth was agape and his eyes were widened. His jaw almost dropped to the ground. He truly had not expected this to be the outcome of this battle. Two territorial lords joined forces and yet, they lost to a low-level fiend demon who had just broken through? If he had not witnessed it personally, he would not have believed it. As territorial lord, are you guys alright? Bronze Bull asked carefully. Black Wolf waved it off and stood up, looking at Su Zimo as he said slowly, I've lost. Indeed, you're qualified to be the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain. However, I only acknowledge your potential. Black Wolf emphasized, given your potential, if you continue cultivating and become a mid-level fiend demon, there won't be anyone in the vicinity who can threaten you. But right now, Black Wolf did not continue. Chan Rui added, if you want to resolve the crisis of Howling Moon Mountain with the methods and essence spirit dermic weapon just now, I'm afraid it's not enough. I have my own plans for how to resolve the crisis of Howling Moon Mountain, Su Zimo said indifferently. All you have to do is tell me if you want to submit to me. Instantly the cave abode went silent. Black Wolf was silent with a hesitant expression. Anyone who could become a territorial lord was no small character. Now that he was asked to abdicate his position and submit to someone else, he was finally conflicted. However, Hei Lang knew that if he waited for the three territories to attack, his situation would only be worse than it was now. Not only would he die, Howling Moon Mountain would cease to exist as well. That was something he could not accept the most. At that thought, Black Wolf gripped his fist slightly and said in a deep voice, since I've lost, I have nothing else to say. I'm willing to give up my position as territorial lord as long as you can protect Howling Moon Mountain and treat every single demon here well. Territorial lord. Bronze Bull shouted. Black Wolf waved it off. I've already made up my mind. There's no need to say anything more. All right. Su Zimo nodded and declared, from this day forth, Howling Moon Mountain will have a new deputy territorial lord, Black Wolf. Chan Rui will continue to be the deputy territorial lord, and her position will remain unchanged. Monkey and the others were excited. This meant that from this moment forth, the five of them would have a territory of their own. Pondering for a moment, Black Wolf cupped his fists. I still don't know your name, territorial lord. Also, what is your true form, territorial lord? To be fair, even though he had already given up his position as territorial lord, Black Wolf was still indignant towards this young man before him. However, he felt that he could not see through this person. Up till this point of their fight, he did not even know what this person's true form was. It was the same for Chan Rui. Su Zimo thought for a moment and said, from this day forth, you guys can call me Mo. Mo? Black Wolf and Chan Rui murmured softly. The names of demons were much more casual than the names of cultivators. Even one-word names were extremely common. There were also many demon beasts like Monkey who could not be bothered to give themselves names. The two of them exchanged glances and could see the confusion in each other's hearts. Su Zimo only answered a single question. Black Wolf and Chan Rui were tactful and did not continue asking. Chapter 821. The territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain had changed. The news spread rapidly and caused a huge uproar in the entire territory. The only demons that witnessed the battle in the territorial lord's cave abode were the Rat King and Bronze Bull. Most of the demon race were confused. They only heard that after the original territorial lord, Black Wolf, met a few people, the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain changed and Black Wolf gave up his position to become the second deputy territorial lord. Everything happened way too quickly and peacefully. It was as though Howling Moon Mountain had a change of territorial lord overnight without any signs of invasion. After the new territorial lord took over, there was no grand ceremony and everything ended after Black Wolf and Chan Rui made an announcement. The demons did not even know what the new territorial lord looked like. Everything about this matter was strange. I heard that there are 5 new territorial lords and they call each other brothers. There are 5 of them and I've even met 4 of them. One of them is a monkey demon, one is a tiger demon, one is a crane demon and one is a fox demon. However, what? However, the 4 of them are only low-level fiend demons and their cultivation is only at early-stage nascent soul. How is that possible? Low-level fiend demons are the territorial lords of Howling Moon Mountain? I heard that the leader of the 5 brothers is the current Grand Territorial Lord of Howling Moon Mountain, and he's the strongest. He's definitely a mid-level fiend demon. Have you seen the Grand Territorial Lord before? What's his true form? I've never seen him before. I don't think the Grand Territorial Lord has ever shown himself before. He's extremely mysterious, and I only heard that he's called Mo. During this period of time, demons would often gather in Howling Moon Mountain and discuss excitedly. In less than 3 days, the news had already spread to Black Sand Ridge, Cyclone Cave and Ghastly River, and caused quite a stir as well. In the depths of a sinister and blood-filled cave, there was a spacious hall. Within the hall, there was a thin blood-colored red line that pierced through the stone walls on both sides of the hall, like a blood vessel. A man sat on the bloodline steadily and held a jade cup in his left hand. It was filled with a scarlet liquid that was still warm. The man placed the jade cup under his nose and took a deep sniff. His eyes were half closed as he revealed an intoxicated expression. The Territorial Lord of Howling Moon Mountain has changed. Could it be that Black Sand Ridge or Ghastly River got there first? The man muttered to himself, no, they shouldn't be from these two territories. After pausing for a while, the man suddenly opened his eyes. A bloody light flashed as he said in a deep voice, "Go and investigate again." "Yes," a voice echoed in the hall. Then the sound of wings flapping could be heard. A streak of blood-red light flew out from the darkness above the hall and quickly disappeared. The man unhurriedly drank the red liquid in the jade cup in one gulp. He stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked the corner of his mouth, saying, delicious. Black Sand Ridge. During this period of time, the demons of Black Sand Ridge had been living in fear. The young lord of Black Sand Ridge had lost his physical body and returned with severe injuries. However, the culprit was still nowhere to be found. Not long after, the young master of Black Sand Ridge failed his possession and died completely. There were many restrictions to an essence spirit possession, and it was extremely dangerous. If one wanted to possess a body, the cultivation realm of the possessed individual could not be too low. At the very least, they had to be at nascent soul realm and had unlocked their spirit platform. As for the possessed individual, their cultivation realms could not be too different. Otherwise, if the essence spirit was too strong and entered the body of the possessed individual, the latter's body would not be able to withstand it and would explode into a blood mist. In other words, there was a chance of success if both parties were of similar cultivation realms. The fight for possession was actually a fight for the essence spirit. If their cultivation realms were of similar cultivation realms, it meant that the outcome of the fight for the essence spirit was unpredictable. In the process of possession, there were many cases where the possession failed and the primordial spirit was devoured instead. That was the case for the young master of Black Sand Ridge. At the end of the day, possession was not the orthodox path. That was because possession was equivalent to seizing the life of others to extend one's own lifespan. It was not an exaggeration to call it the evil path. However, all living beings cultivated for longevity. Although they knew that possession was an evil art, there was no lack of orthodox cultivators who would resort to unscrupulous means to extend their lives. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge was enraged after the death of the young master of Black Sand Ridge and killed many demon beasts. In fact, 2 protectors were killed by him personally because they said the wrong thing. All the demons knew that if they could not catch the culprit, there would be countless more demon beasts that would have to die with him. This day, a piece of news from Howling Moon Mountain broke the tension of Black Sand Ridge. 5 people, Monkey, Linghu, Crane and Fox. All of them are low-level fiend demons. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge narrowed his eyes with a sinister killing intent. If he was not wrong, there was a high chance that the 5 of them were the culprits behind the death of his child. To think that they would head to Howling Moon Mountain. Fufu. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge had a menacing expression as he smiled sinisterly. Let's see where else you can hide after I destroy Howling Moon Mountain. Ghastly River. A young man in luxurious light blue robes laid on a colorful coral bed in a relaxed manner. He sipped on fine wine and listened to the news from the river demons under his command. Oh, the young man in luxurious robes was extremely calm after hearing the entire news and merely replied, Territorial Lord, I heard that Cyclone Cave and Black Sand Ridge have been on the move recently. There's a high chance that those 2 territories are going to make a move on Howling Moon Mountain. A river demon standing beside the coral bed said in a deep voice. The man in luxurious robes waved it off. A black scorpion and a smelly bat. There's nothing to fear. The river demon continued. I heard that the new territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain is called Mo. He's rather mysterious and has yet to reveal himself. I'm sure he must have some tricks up his sleeves since he was able to force Black Wolf to retreat. His combat strength can't be that high if he's sworn siblings with 4 low-level fiend demons. The man in luxurious robes smiled gently and declared proudly, if that man has some tricks up his sleeves, I'll take pity on his talent and try to take him in as my subordinate. If he's ordinary, I'll just kill him. When are you going to make your move, territorial lord? In a few days, I guess. The man in luxurious robes said in a deep voice, There seems to be some sort of treasure appearing in the direction of Howling Moon Mountain in the next 1 or 2 months. We can't let others beat us to it. His true form was that of a worm. There was a thin trace of the bloodline of dragons left in his body. However, that thin trace of the bloodline of dragons was enough for him to become one of the top existences among ferocious beasts. The aura of dragons that drifted over from the direction of Howling Moon Mountain was faintly discernible. Other demon beasts might not be able to sense it, but as a WRM, he could vaguely sense it. At the very least, he felt his heart skip a beat when he was enveloped by that aura. That was a might that came from the depths of his bloodline. That aura was definitely the appearance of a treasure, and it had something to do with dragons. If I can obtain that treasure, my strength will definitely increase tremendously. In fact, I might even have a chance of turning into a true dragon in my lifetime. The river demon was shocked and knelt on the ground hurriedly, shouting, Congratulations, territorial lord. The man in luxurious robes rose slowly and gazed into the distance, saying in a deep voice, If that day comes, even the entire 1,000 Demon Valley won't be able to trap me, let alone this puny ghastly river. Chapter 822. The reason why Suzimo did not appear was not because he was trying to be mysterious. However, after subduing Black Wolf and Chanrui the other day, there was a huge commotion in his consciousness. He had no choice but to enter seclusion. The creation Qinglian had finally awakened. The greatest benefit of having 2 primordial spirits was that the 2 primordial spirits could cultivate independently without affecting each other. Most of the time in Howling Moon Mountain, Suzimo focused on the scarlet-haired Een spirit, while the black-haired Essence spirit continued cultivating in a corner. Even when Suzimo was fighting against Black Wolf and Chanrui in his cave abode, the black-haired Essence spirit did not stop cultivating. After cultivating day and night without rest, he finally had a delightful harvest. The creation Qinglian had awakened. Suzimo made a few rough arrangements and entered seclusion right away. Time was tight for him. Black Sand Ridge, Cyclone Cave and Ghastly River could attack Howling Moon Mountain at any moment. This was definitely going to be a tough battle. The only way he could truly gain a foothold in 1,000 Demon Valley, and no longer have to flee after winning this battle. Suzimo had just advanced to the nascent soul realm and had 3 top-tier spirit refinement techniques with him. There were still many things that he had to cultivate and improve. As long as he had sufficient time, his combat strength would increase at an unimaginable speed. Therefore, Suzimo did not intend to rush out of his seclusion this time round. Ever since he left Dragon Burial Valley, he had been fighting his way through suppressing paragons, becoming the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking, defeating D'Een and suppressing 2 of the 9 races. He was invincible without stopping. This time round, he had to stop and enter seclusion for real to consolidate his cultivation. After entering the secret chamber, Suzimo assumed a lotus position and entered his consciousness with a single thought. A green lotus platform hovered beneath the black-haired Essence spirit that was brimming with vitality. A circle of green petals had already grown around the lotus platform. There were a total of 9 petals. The petals were newly born and were tender and had yet to fully grow. There were 9 tiny holes on the lotus platform and tender green lotus seeds appeared one after another, shimmering with a crystalline glow. Suzimo could clearly sense that Qinglian was absorbing the power of the black-haired primordial spirit, and was slowly growing. But at the same time, Suzimo was surprised to find that Qinglian was also helping him refine his spirit. On the lotus platform, rays of light spewed out from the 9 holes and circled the black-haired Essence spirit, tempering it continuously. Under the tempering of the 9 rays of light, the black-haired Essence spirit was clearly stronger and more condensed. In fact, it was even comparable to the scarlet-haired Yin spirit. Sensing the changes, Su Zimo was overjoyed. Presumably, this was one of the mysteries of Qinglian's creation. Red-haired Yin spirits originated from dragons and were extremely powerful. In fact, at the nascent soul stage, they could leave their physical bodies and roam the world. Although the black-haired essence spirit cultivated the Purple Thunder Manual and the Great Day Rulai Sutra, it still could not reach such a level. Now that the black-haired essence spirit was tempered by Qinglian, there was hope for it to be able to roam the world spiritually at the nascent soul realm as well. Of course, although Qinglian was successfully awakened, this treasure required the nourishment of the power of the essence spirit, and was growing extremely slowly. Monk Yin Lu once said that if Qinglian could reach grade 4, it would be comparable to a Khanate perfected Lord Dermic weapon. At grade 5, it would be comparable to a Khanate Void Reversion Dermic weapon. Right now, Qinglian could barely be considered as grade 1. Given this speed, it would take a few hundred years for it to grow to grade 4. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. It was no wonder why this treasure passed through dozens of paragons, but most of them were burdened by it, and no one dared to touch it anymore. Even with 2 heaven-grade cultivation techniques as support, the black-haired essence spirit still needed a few hundred years. For other cultivators, it would take at least 1,000 years for them to nurture Qinglian to grade 4. However, Jining Zhenjuan only had 1,000 years of lifespan. Which paragon could afford to wait that long? Thankfully, Su Zimo did not only have the black-haired essence spirit, he also had the scarlet-haired Yin spirit. With 2 essence spirits nourishing at the same time, Qinglian's growth speed would increase by a lot. The fact that Su Zimo had 2 essence spirits meant that he could refine 2 destiny dermic weapons at the same time. The destiny dermic weapon of the black-haired essence spirit was already confirmed to be the creation Qinglian. However, the scarlet-haired Yin spirit's destiny dermic weapon was still undecided. Right now, Su Zimo had 3 treasures with him that could be used as his destiny dermic weapon: Mingwang prayer beads, Mystic Magnet Mountain, and Bronze Square Tripod. The Mingwang prayer beads were the cornerstone treasure of Daming Monastery, and there was naturally no need to elaborate on how precious and powerful they were. Unfortunately, the Mingwang prayer beads were incomplete right now. Furthermore, the Mingwang prayer beads were items of the Buddhist monasteries, and were not suitable for the scarlet-haired Yin spirit to refine them. The Mystic Magnet Mountain was one of the 7 ancient unique treasures. This treasure could not be considered as a spirit weapon or a dermic weapon. However, it possessed extraordinary and unique abilities. If used appropriately, it could be used with a surprise move. However, if it was refined into a destiny dermic weapon, its abilities might not be unleashed. As for the Bronze Square Tripod, the origin of this treasure was unknown, and it was also extremely damaged with cracks all over it. However, after obtaining it, it helped Su Zimo tide over his difficulties time and time again. Everything else aside, in terms of toughness, Su Zimo had never seen anything that could shake this gigantic tripod. After pondering for a long time, Su Zimo finally made up his mind to refine the Bronze Square Tripod. In his cave abode, Su Zimo assumed a lotus position with his eyes closed motionlessly, as though he was asleep. However, in reality, the 2 essence spirits in his consciousness were cultivating at the same time without slacking off at all. While the scarlet-haired Yin spirit cultivated the Yin spirit section, it was also refining the Bronze Square Tripod, leaving spirit consciousness imprints on it to establish connections. While the black-haired essence spirit cultivated the Purple Thunder Manual and Great Day Rulai Sutra, it was also refining the creation Qinglian. Among the 3 top-tier cultivation techniques, the Yin spirit section did not record any dermic arts, and was completely a spirit refinement technique. Only the Yang spirit section recorded a dermic art and an essence spirit secret skill. Those 2 secret skills had extremely high requirements for one's essence spirit. Furthermore, there were many obscure words in the 2 secret skills of the Yang spirit section that seemed to contain endless power and were difficult to understand. According to the records of the Yang spirit section, those 2 secret skills were the most terrifying killing techniques of the Desolate Ocean Dragon King. Su Zimo felt regretful that he could not cultivate those 2 secret skills for the time being. The true strength of the Great Day Rulai Sutra was that it could conjure the supreme Dharma characteristic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Rulai dermic body. The early stages of that cultivation technique focused on spirit refinement. There was an essence spirit secret skill recorded within. Unfortunately, Su Zimo had just advanced to the nascent soul realm, and was not at the level where he could cultivate essence spirit secret skills. As for the Purple Thunder Manual, it recorded some dermic arts in the early stages. The black-haired essence spirit cultivated those dermic arts while refining the creation Qinglian. Day after day, time flew by. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had been in seclusion for half a year. In the secret chamber, a figure sat there silently. His hair was scarlet at times and black at other times. Occasionally, electric arcs would flash on the surface of his body with crackling sounds. Su Zimo did not move at all for half a year. On the surface, he did not seem to have changed and was still dressed in his green robes. However, if one closed their eyes, they would be able to sense a shuddering aura in the secret chamber. It was as though an ancient demon was devouring the world. Chapter 823. This day dark clouds filled the skies above Howling Moon Mountain with howling winds. A thunderstorm was imminent. Black Wolf and Chan Rui walked out of their cave abodes one after another and raised their heads, frowning slightly with grim expressions. Dark clouds loomed over the city. Amidst these ink-like clouds, the two of them could smell a wisp of murderous intent. At their cultivation realm, they would have a mysterious sense towards danger, as though they were struck by a whim. Is it finally here? Chan Rui murmured softly. Black Wolf said in a deep voice, pass down the order. Prepare for battle. Understood. The Rat King retreated with cupped fists and disappeared before long. Right then Monkey, Linghu, Qing and Little Fox came out of seclusion one after another and arrived. Black Wolf swept his gaze across the four of them but did not catch sight of that figure. He hesitated and could not help but ask, a storm is coming. Should we invite Territorial Lord Mo too? He's in seclusion. There's no need to disturb him. Monkey waved it off. If a great enemy truly arrives, he'll naturally come out of seclusion. The moment he said that, a strange rustling sound could be heard from afar. It turned clearer and sounded as though countless ants were crawling on the ground. The ancient trees swayed and snapped one after another. Initially, it was a patch of lush greenery in the distance. However, as the rustling sound approached, the lush greenery could be seen fading and turning into a withered yellow before long. In the blink of an eye, countless plants withered and their life force was severed. What a potent poison! Qing frowned and took a deep breath. Chan Rui said, someone from Black Sand Ridge should be here. At that moment, the demon army of Howling Moon Mountain had already gathered. There were more than 10,000 Jindan realm spirit demons, and more than 50 low-level fiend demons. The only mid-level fiend demons were Black Wolf and Chan Rui. All of them were gathered here. Before long, the withered yellow in the distance had already spread to the front. All the demons focused their gazes. A large, densely packed scorpion army was charging towards this place. Everywhere they passed, there was no life, and everything was turned into yellow soil. At the front, there were 100 low-level fiend demons in human form standing on black scorpions. Their leader wore black robes and had a grim expression. He gave off a nauseating stench. It was the Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge. Behind him were 5 mid-level fiend demons with powerful auras. The expressions of the demons of Howling Moon Mountain changed slightly. The invasion of the Black Sand Ridge army was clearly stronger than Howling Moon Mountain. Hei Lang clenched his fists slightly and said in a deep voice, Scorpion, you finally couldn't hold back. I'm not here for your Howling Moon Mountain. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge swept his cold gaze past Black Wolf and Chan Rui before landing on Monkey and the other three. He asked coldly, did you guys kill anyone in Black Sand Ridge half a year ago? I have, so what? Monkey raised his head slightly with a prideful expression and asked with a sneer. All right. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge nodded. Since you've admitted to it, that saves us a lot of trouble. Today you will be buried with my son. That's Scorpion. Frowning, the spirit tiger replied. I remember that he escaped back then. However, he failed his possession later on and died. The Territorial Lord of Black Sand Ridge said word by word with a chilling tone. Linghu chuckled and rolled his eyes. He can't blame us for that. He can only blame himself for being too stupid. You must have a death wish. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge grit his teeth and shifted his gaze slowly towards Hei Lang, saying coldly, "Hei Lang, hand the 4 of them to me and I might spare your life." Hei Lang merely smiled and shook his head without saying anything. There was no way out for him in Howling Moon Mountain. I've long heard that the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain has changed, and it's a few low-level fiend demons. Fufu, I didn't believe it initially. But now it seems like the rumors are true. Another voice sounded in midair. Immediately after, dark clouds rumbled and figures descended one after another, descending in the vicinity. There were at least tens of thousands of them and they filled the entire mountain range. The person in the lead had a gaunt face. He grinned, revealing his sharp teeth and a sinister aura. It was the overlord of Cyclone Cave. Behind the territorial lord of Cyclone Cave stood 7 mid-level fiend demons with a murderous aura. The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave concealed his demons within the dark clouds and arrived with the wind. It was an extremely shocking sight for him to suddenly descend on Howling Moon Mountain. Hei Lang and Chan Rui exchanged glances and could see the shock in each other's eyes. Notwithstanding, Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave already had the upper hand in terms of numbers of spirit demons and low-level fiend demons. In terms of numbers of mid-level fiend demons, those 2 territories had an absolute advantage as well. Including the territorial lord, Black Sand Ridge had 6 mid-level fiend demons. Including the territorial lord, Cyclone Cave had 8. Even if Hei Lang and Chan Rui were to fight the 2 territorial lords one-on-one, they might not be able to win, let alone the remaining 12 mid-level fiend demons. Although the new territorial lord, Mo, was strong, he had just advanced to the nascent soul realm after all. Given his cultivation realm, how could he defend against the combined attacks of 12 mid-level fiend demons? Hei Lang took a deep breath of air. The territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain has indeed changed. It's these guys beside me. Ha 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 ha. The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave reared his head in laughter, as though he had just heard the greatest joke in the world. To think that you would give up your position to a few low-level fiend demons. How ridiculous and comical. Hei Lang, you guys have embarrassed yourselves. The demons of Howling Moon Mountain lowered their heads one after another, feeling indignant and ashamed. Even the demon beasts of Howling Moon Mountain could not understand what was going on, let alone outsiders. Hei Lang's expression was terrible. This was truly unpleasant to hear. There was no way to explain it either. Was he supposed to admit that he had lost to a low-level fiend demon in front of everyone? The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave continued, Hei Lang, Chan Rui, you guys won't be able to escape death even if you give up your position. Half a year ago, the 2 of you killed 2 fiend demons under my command. Today, I'll have you guys pay with your blood. The moment he said that, the atmosphere around Howling Moon Mountain turned tense. The 3 factions could fight at any moment. Splash! Suddenly, a torrential downpour poured down. Although the downpour was heavy, it could not extinguish the killing intent of the demons. The entire forest was filled with a killing intent and the stench of blood. The rainwater drenched the clothes of the demons before long and bean-sized raindrops slid down their faces slowly. However, none of them moved. Any movement at this moment could lead to a huge battle. Interesting. Another voice with a hint of mockery sounded amidst the sound of the rain. It's him. Hei Lang, the territorial lords of Cyclone Cave and Black Sand Ridge, and all the mid-level fiend demons were shocked as they turned towards the voice. Rumble. A torrential wave blanketed the skies and surged over with a howl. The gigantic wave almost drowned the entire Howling Moon Mountain. The demons were shocked. Even the demon beasts of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave retreated instinctively, afraid that they would be swept in. However, just as the gigantic wave approached Howling Moon Mountain, it came to a stop, as though it was guided by some mysterious power. Such a destructive torrent was even more frightening for it to stop just like that. The waves surged in front of the demons, splashing everywhere. A figure stood proudly with his hands behind his back on the largest wave with a domineering aura. One after another, river demons could be vaguely seen floating in the torrent behind him. This is Howling Moon Mountain. It's my territory. Monkey pouted his lips and patted Imminent on his shoulder, saying lazily, if you guys want to divide Howling Moon Mountain, you'll have to ask the fella in my hands first. The demons of Howling Moon Mountain were shocked. The three territorial lords frowned at the same time. Given the current situation, Howling Moon Mountain could be overturned at any moment with the arrival of the three territorial lords leading their demon armies. Who among the demons present could guarantee their survival? The three territorial lords ruled over a region with a domineering aura. Even mid-level fiend demons such as Black Wolf and Chanrui were wary and cautious in such a situation, let alone low-level fiend demons. Who would have thought that a low-level fiend demon would dare to stand out and challenge the three territorial lords head-on? A low-level fiend demon of Black Sand Ridge could not hold it in any longer and jumped out, pointing at Monkey and hollering, "Wild Monkey, you have no right to speak here." Monkey glanced sideways at the demon and sneered. "Your grandpa Monkey is the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain. Who do you think you are to speak to me?" The fiend demon was enraged and leaped into the air, hollering. A low-level fiend demon dares to call himself a territorial lord? What a joke. Let's see what capabilities you've got. Wild Monkey, come up and die. Monkey smirked and stomped on the ground. With a loud boom, he rose from the ground and arrived before the fiend demon in the blink of an eye. "Have a taste of your grandpa Monkey's staff." Monkey hollered and swung imminent with both hands, drawing a perfect arc in midair before smashing down viciously towards the head of the demon. The might of that strike was way too ferocious. The fiend demon wielded a gigantic spear in his hands and initially, he wanted to stab Monkey in the chest. However, he was intimidated by the might of Monkey's staff and did not dare to continue stabbing forward in fear, retracting his spear hurriedly to defend. The moment the demon raised the spear above his head with both hands, he felt a tremendous vibration from the spear. Instantly, his palm was torn and blood gushed out. Immediately after, a deafening sound echoed in his ears. The demon's mouth was agape and his eyes were filled with shock. Snap! His magic tool had actually been smashed to pieces by the staff in front of him. The next moment, his vision was filled with golden light, and he felt a sharp pain in his head before losing consciousness. Right in front of everyone else, the low-level fiend demon of Black Sand Ridge had his head smashed apart after his weapon was snapped by Monkey's staff. His brain was splattered and his essence spirit was destroyed on the spot. He was killed with a single strike. A commotion broke out below Howling Moon Mountain. Although the territorial lords of Howling Moon Mountain had changed, the demons did not know much about the new territorial lords and had not seen Monkey and the others attack before. Today was the first time. Domineering. Domineering. Shocking. Although Monkey's cultivation realm was not high enough, his attack had indeed avenged the demons of Howling Moon Mountain, and they felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Ha 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 ha. After killing the fiend demon of Black Sand Ridge with a single strike, Monkey reared his head and laughed maniacally. He looked down at the demon beasts of the three territories and hollered, "Don't send small fries like these to their deaths. Even I find it embarrassing." The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge had a terrible expression and his teeth creaked from gritting them. "Don't get cocky, you rascal." A burly man appeared behind the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge in a flash. Wielding a gigantic hammer, he strode towards Monkey in huge strides. A mid-level fiend demon. Black Wolf took a closer look. The burly man should be one of the deputy territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge. The mid-level fiend demon, Duan Yong. "Don't just stand there, save him." Black Wolf hollered. He had seen Monkey in action before. In his opinion, although Monkey was strong in combat, he was not at the level where he could fight against mid-level fiend demons. Now that territorial Lord Mo had yet to come out of seclusion, there was no way they, as deputy territorial lords, could stand idly by while Monkey and the others were in danger. The moment Black Wolf and Chanrui moved, the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave moved at the same time and blocked Black Wolf and Chanrui. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge let out a sinister laugh. "Fufu, Black Wolf, your opponent is me. Beauty-chan, your blood smells really sweet." The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave took a deep sniff and revealed an intoxicated expression. His movement technique was agile and his speed was shocking as he circled around Chanrui, almost turning into afterimages. Kill. The attack of the mid-level fiend demon caused a chain reaction. The other territorial lords split up and roared from the demon horde below as well. A massive demon war had erupted. Chapter 825. The river demons of Ghastly River had already charged into the battlefield, but Solitary Cloud did not make a move. To be precise, he could not be bothered to make a move. In his opinion, the outcome of this battle was destined right from the start. What he wanted to do was to try his best to obtain the territory of Howling Moon Mountain and search for the treasure that emitted the aura of dragons. Before long, the battlefield was divided. Spirit demons fought against spirit demons. Low-level fiend demons fought against low-level fiend demons. In terms of numbers, Howling Moon Mountain had much fewer spirit demons compared to Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave combined. Thankfully, this was Howling Moon Mountain and they had the geographical advantage. They could still defend. As for the low-level fiend demons, Linghu, Ching Ching and Little Fox led them and had the upper hand. However, those two battlefields were not enough to determine the direction of the battle. Howling Moon Mountain was at a complete disadvantage in the mid-level fiend demon battlefield that would determine the outcome. The mid-level fiend demons of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had all attacked. Led by the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge, there were 5 mid-level fiend demons surrounding Black Wolf. As for Cyclone Cave, there were 8 mid-level fiend demons that attacked Chanrui at the same time. Right at the start of the battle, Black Wolf and Chanrui were faced with suffocating attacks that resembled a torrential downpour. The two of them were overwhelmed and almost died on the spot. Both of them were comparable to the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave at most. However, Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had more than 10 helpers. Black Wolf and Chanrui were no match for them at all. They could not even protect themselves, let alone save Monkey. On the other side, the deputy territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge, Duan Yong, was already engaged in a fight with Monkey. As a mid-level fiend demon, Duan Yong felt disdain towards fiend demons that were a major cultivation realm lower than him. That was the reason why he did not even revert to his true form at the start of the battle. Brazen Monkey, die! Duan Yong's gaze was menacing as he wielded his gigantic hammer and charged forward, smacking Monkey on the head. Monkey's blood chi surged and he had already shed his human form. Thick golden fur grew at a visible speed and covered his entire body, expanding with a torrential demonic chi. Against the incoming hammer, Monkey did not dodge at all and revealed his ferocity. Wielding imminent with both hands, the muscles on his arms bulged one after another like molten steel. Kill! Monkey roared and swung imminent, smashing it against the sledgehammer. Boom! The hammers collided with each other, causing sparks to fly in all directions as a deafening explosion erupted. A huge wave of air instantly gushed out. Duan Yong let out a muffled groan and felt his arms ache. He almost lost his grip on the sledgehammer and retreated continuously. What ferocious power! Duan Yong's eyes were filled with astonishment. Even if he didn't transform into his true form, his battle prowess was definitely on par with a low-level fiendish demon. And this monkey in front of him had actually forced him to retreat with a single strike. Solitary Cloud, who was watching by the side, noticed that and his eyes lit up. Stupid monkey, I'm going to tear you to shreds. Duan Yong twisted his neck and made a series of cracking sounds. His bones mutated and his body expanded. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a huge rhinoceros. Duan Yong transformed into his true form, and his combat strength skyrocketed. Rumble! Duan Yong rushed over in midair with an aggressive aura. He controlled the sledgehammer with his spirit consciousness and smashed it towards Monkey. At the same time, Duan Yong's massive body charged towards Monkey and his thick and sharp horn struck Monkey's chest viciously. So you're a rhinoceros demon. I'll send you to hell. Monkey was fearless and the scarlet light in his eyes shone brightly as though it was about to spew out. Berserk! He had just become a low-level fiendish demon, and was not at the level where he could take mid-level fiendish demons head-on. However, if the berserk power in his bloodline was activated, Monkey's combat strength would increase to a terrifying level. Back in Myriad Phenomenon City, Monkey could even take on the primordial 9 races in a berserk state. Monkey was in a berserk state and his bloodshot eyes were filled with only the rhinoceros before him. The mysterious power in his bloodline surged continuously and rampaged through his body. Monkey's body was trembling slightly. Clang! Monkey swung imminent and sent the sledgehammer above Duan Yong's head flying. Immediately after, Monkey leaped and dodged Duan Yong's charge. Instead, He rode on top of the latter's head and raised his fist, smashing down on Duanyang's head. Bang! Duanyang's body shuddered when that fist smashed down. He felt a splitting headache and a boom in his head. His head spun and his body swayed. He nearly fainted. Thankfully, Monkey's right arm had turned numb from the impact of imminent collision with the sledgehammer. He was unable to exert any strength. Otherwise, if Qianjun smashed down, Duanyang's head would be smashed into smithereens. Even so, Monkey's fist was not something that Duanyang's head could take on. Poof! Duanyang opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He tried his best to sway his body, wanting to shake Monkey off. However, Monkey's legs clamped down on Duanyang's waist like a tight band. He rode on top of Duanyang and did not budge at all. He merely raised his fists and smashed them down like raindrops. "I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death." Monkey cursed and his bloodshot eyes shone. After a few consecutive punches, streaks of blood appeared on the surface of Duanyang's head. He coughed out blood repeatedly and his eyes dimmed. Interesting, Solitary Cloud's lips curled as he nodded. This monkey's bloodline was definitely extraordinary to be able to take on an opponent who was a major cultivation realm above him. However, if that was the extent of Monkey's capabilities, he would most likely lose. Go to hell! Duanyang's glabella shone and he suddenly roared. A powerful spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth and instantly descended upon the monkey's body. It was a spirit consciousness attack. Although Duanyang did not know any essence spirit secret skills, he was a mid-level fiend demon and possessed spirit consciousness attacks. This was an attack targeted at the essence spirit and arrived almost instantly. "Ah!" Monkey cried out in pain and hugged his head with one hand. He felt a piercing pain in his head, as though needles were stabbing him. His body swayed and he nearly fell from midair. "Brother Duan, don't panic. I'm here to help you." A mid-level fiend demon from Cyclone Cave charged over. His true form was a blood-colored bat with a hideous and menacing appearance. His glabella shone and he released spirit consciousness attacks one after another. Monkey could not defend against the spirit consciousness attacks of two mid-level fiend demons at all. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" Monkey hugged his head with both hands and bared his teeth in agony as he stomped his feet in midair. He could no longer care about imminent in his hands. Solitary Cloud shook his head gently. What a pity. Indeed, there was an insurmountable gap between low-level fiend demons and mid-level fiend demons. Even in the past, he found it difficult to challenge mid-level fiend demons when he was a low-level fiend demon. On the other side, Black Wolf and Chanrui were covered in injuries and were at the end of their rope. With the help of more than 10 mid-level fiend demons, the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had complete control of the situation and were almost uninjured. Black Wolf, Chanrui, it's useless even if you use your essence spirit secret skills. As though they could read Black Wolf and Chanrui's intentions, the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave exchanged glances and smiled smugly. That's because we know essence spirit secret skills as well. Today, even the gods won't be able to save Howling Moon Mountain. You guys will definitely die. I don't think so. Right at this moment, a voice resounded from Howling Moon Mountain. It was sonorous and forceful like an army that was filled with an iron-blooded killing intent. Chapter 826. The voice reverberated through Howling Moon Mountain. However, in the midst of the intense battle, not many demon beasts paid attention to it. However, Linghu, Qing Qing and the others were invigorated. Boom! A deafening sound echoed from the entrance of the cave abode at the top of the mountain. The stone door exploded and countless boulders flew in a frightening manner. Amidst the rubble, a figure could be seen moving at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, he had already arrived beside the monkey. So fast! Solitary Cloud was shocked. All he saw was a blur in front of him and the figure had already disappeared. In fact, he could not even catch up to the figure with his gaze. Solitary Cloud released his spirit consciousness and focused his gaze. The person was dressed in green robes and had shoulder-length scarlet hair. He had refined features and exuded a demonic aura. The person scooped out with his left hand and grabbed Eminent that had just fallen, smashing it against Duanyang's back in reverse. Bang! Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Duanyang's massive body was split into two by the tremendous power released by Imminent. His organs and flesh splattered in midair with a blood stench filling the air. At the same time, the person reached out with his right hand and grabbed the bloodbat of Cyclone Cave that was flashing around with lightning speed. The bloodbats of Cyclone Cave were known for their speed. However, they could not escape from the hands of this person. Squeak, squeak, squeak. As a mid-level fiend demon, the bloodbat let out a series of short shrieks when its throat was gripped by the person's palm. It struggled continuously but could not break free no matter what. Without hesitation, the person exerted strength in his palm. Snap! The throat of the bloodbat of Cyclone Cave was snapped by that person. It was clean and tidy. The entire process was as smooth as flowing water without any sluggishness at all. In the blink of an eye, the bodies of two mid-level fiend demons were destroyed. For low-level fiend demons, the destruction of their bodies was equivalent to death. However, for mid-level fiend demons, their essence spirits could leave their bodies and they could escape even in a battlefield filled with swords and sabers. Light flashed and two figures floated out from the corpses. One of them was a thumb-sized rhinoceros while the other was a blood-colored bat that fled into the distance rapidly. Losing his physical body meant that his primordial spirit would be exposed to the outside world, and the danger level would increase exponentially. However, without the shackles of his physical body, his essence spirit was closer to the world. With fewer obstacles, his speed was even faster. Unfortunately, no matter how fast these two primordial spirits were, they were not as fast as the speed of sound. After destroying the bodies of the two mid-level fiend demons, the intruder suddenly opened his mouth and let out a loud roar. Kill! It was like a sudden clap of thunder shocking the mind. Before the two nascent divinities could get very far, the voice rang out, and the two nascent divinities trembled. Their bodies stiffened and they stopped in midair. A moment later, the light of the two primordial spirits gradually dimmed. Cracks appeared on their bodies as they fell from the sky. Two mid-level fiendish demons, dead in body and spirit. The demons were in an uproar. If the initial voice was not enough to attract everyone's attention, this scene was enough to shock all the demons present. Even the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave stopped fighting for the time being. They frowned and looked over. Since the start of the battle, countless spirit demons had died. More than 10 low-level fiend demons had perished as well. However, none of the mid-level fiend demons had died yet. However, the moment this person appeared, he killed two mid-level fiend demons with thunderous methods. Who would dare to ignore him? Who was this person? That was the greatest and only doubt in the hearts of all the demons present. Territorial Lord. Right then, Black Wolf could not help but shout when he caught sight of that person. It's the Territorial Lord. The Grand Territorial Lord of Howling Moon Mountain. The Rat King was bathed in blood. When he caught sight of the intruder, his face was filled with joy and he was in high spirits as he shouted loudly. The demons of Howling Moon Mountain cheered and their morale was boosted. The demons had almost forgotten about this mysterious territorial lord that had never shown himself after the battle broke out. To think that this mysterious territorial lord would finally appear at this most critical moment. I heard that the new territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain is a low-level fiend demon. Initially I did not believe it. But now it seems like the rumors are true. Fufu, Howling Moon Mountain is truly getting more and more useless. Right then a stifled laugh sounded from midair. Solitary Cloud looked over with his hands behind his back with a mocking gaze. Low-level fiend demon? The demons of Howling Moon Mountain froze for a moment in confusion, and turned towards the intruder instinctively. He seems like a low-level fiend demon. How can that be? Heis! In the blink of an eye, the smiles on the faces of the demons of Howling Moon Mountain vanished as they shook their heads and sighed dejectedly. The greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment. Initially, all the demons thought that this new territorial lord would be able to lead them to defeat the strong enemies. But now, what could a low-level fiend demon do? Given this situation, even mid-level fiend demons with ordinary combat strength would not be able to turn the tides. The intruder was none other than Su Zimo, who had just come out of seclusion. The process of him killing two mid-level fiend demons was extremely short and apart from a few bystanders, nobody noticed it at all. Therefore, the demons of Howling Moon Mountain did not have much of a reaction to the death of two mid-level fiend demons. Many demons even thought that it was a sneak attack by their new territorial lord. Su Zimo helped Monkey up and handed Imminent to the latter, asking, "Can you still fight?" Of course. Monkey's bloodshot eyes were much dimmer and the berserk power had dissipated as well. However, the fighting spirit in his eyes did not diminish at all. Su Zimo said, "Go help Ling Hu and the others. Leave this to me." "All right," Monkey replied loudly. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave did not say anything. They merely narrowed their eyes and released their powerful spirit consciousnesses, sweeping through Su Zimo repeatedly. Both of them wanted to see through Su Zimo's facade. However, to their surprise, they could not even see through Su Zimo's true form. If not for the rich demonic chi emanating from Su Zimo's body, they might even have thought that he was a human cultivator. Solitary Cloud frowned as well. The scarlet-haired man before him was merely a low-level fiend demon. However, he could not see through this person either. The strangest thing was that he could sense a sense of trepidation from the scarlet-haired man. This was an unprecedented situation. As a WRM, he was a top-tier expert even among pure-blooded ferocious beasts. Furthermore, his cultivation was a major cultivation realm above this person. How could he feel trepidation? It must be a hallucination. Something's not right. Solitary Cloud closed his eyes and took a deep sniff. The aura of dragons. Solitary Cloud's expression changed. There was a faint aura of the dragon race emanating from that person. "I've got it." Solitary Cloud was enlightened. That treasure of the dragons must be with him. If that was the case, then everything made sense. It was also because of that treasure of the dragons that this person could become the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain despite being a low-level fiend demon. Although Solitary Cloud was expressionless on the surface, he was secretly delighted when he figured that out. A treasure that can help a low-level fiend demon ascend to the position of territorial lord is definitely not ordinary. The heavens are truly on my side. I'm looking forward to it, Solitary Cloud thought to himself with a smirk. Chapter 827. Solitary Cloud pointed at Su Zimo and looked at everyone from Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave with a haughty expression. He said slowly, "Leave this person to me. You guys continue." His intentions were simple. If he were to kill the person before him, even if the treasures of the dragons were exposed, they would belong to him and nobody would be able to snatch them away. The two suzerains of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave exchanged glances and nodded their heads. Initially, both of them thought that the intruder was an incredible expert. But now they realized that he was merely a low-level fiend demon. Even if he had some tricks up his sleeves, they would be of no help and would not affect the situation. Furthermore, Solitary Cloud had already decided to deal with this person. The latter was dead for sure. Kill. The two territorial lords waved their hands and called for the remaining 10 mid-level fiend demons to launch a concentrated attack towards Black Wolf and Chan Rui once more. Instantly, dermic powers surged. Black Wolf and Chan Rui had just caught a breather when they were surrounded once more in the blink of an eye, and met with danger. Su Zimo's gaze was cold. In a flash, he charged in the direction of the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave. "Fufu, I'm your opponent." Solitary Cloud had no intention of reverting to his true form at all. He rode on the waves and blocked Su Zimo's path, smiling leisurely. "It's your honor to die in my hands." Scram. Su Zimo's eyes lit up as he bent his knees and pushed forward. At the same time, he reached out with both hands and grabbed Solitary Cloud's shoulders. That was a killing move from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Prior to this, although Su Zimo's moves were powerful, they merely had the form. After becoming a fiend demon, not only did Su Zimo have the form, there was an additional charm to it as well. This was the true embodiment of both body and spirit. It was only after cultivating an essence spirit that one could attain the embodiment of both body and spirit. Solitary Cloud's expression changed. In his eyes, Su Zimo's figure seemed to have vanished and was replaced by a divine steed that was galloping over with a ferocious aura. An extremely tragic aura surged towards him and shook his mind. Ah, he's a horse demon. That thought flashed through Solitary Cloud's mind. Solitary Cloud was filled with pride. His true form was a ferocious dragon's, a pure-blooded ferocious beast. In terms of bloodline, he could be considered a distant relative of dragons. How could he be intimidated by a horse demon? Get the hell back! Solitary Cloud hollered and extended his arms at the same time, entangling them with Suzimo's hands. He extended a leg from below and kicked Suzimo's knee fiercely. Bang! Solitary Cloud's foot collided heavily with Suzimo's knee. Solitary Cloud shuddered. A terrifying power flowed into his body from the soles of his feet. It was almost impossible to resist. The sole of his foot had already gone numb from the impact. Whoosh! Right then, Solitary Cloud suddenly felt a chill on his arms. Then he felt a sharp pain. Solitary Cloud looked down. He saw Suzimo's fingernails protruding from his 5 fingers. They were as sharp as knives, but they didn't pierce through his flesh. Instead, they tore his sleeves apart and left bloody wounds on his arms. Ah! Solitary Cloud was enraged and could not help but roar. As a pure-blooded ferocious beast, his physique was extremely strong and even ordinary perfected Lord Dermic weapons would not be able to injure him at all. To think that his body would be injured by the fingernails of this low-level fiend demon before him. How dare you injure? Solitary Cloud's eyes widened. Before he could finish, he felt a figure flash before him. Suzimo had charged forward once more in the blink of an eye. Boom! Suzimo's fist drew an arc in midair and smashed down like a gigantic seal with a frightening aura. This Solitary Cloud's eyes were filled with shock and anger. Right now, Suzimo was like a raging divine ape in his eyes, pounding his chest and stomping his feet in an earth-shattering manner. Could this person's true form be of the ape race? What's with the divine steed earlier on? With no time to think, a thought flashed through Solitary Cloud's mind. He hurriedly extended his arms and crossed them to block upwards. Bang! The collision of flesh and bones was as though he was defeated. Solitary Cloud's body shuddered and he lost his footing. He was sent flying by a single punch from Suzimo. After taking 2 consecutive hits, he was actually at a complete disadvantage. Furthermore, the more Solitary Cloud fought, the more shocked and confused he became. He could no longer tell what Suzimo's true form was. Suzimo sent Solitary Cloud flying in merely 2 to 3 breaths' time. Haha! Suzimo burst into laughter and glanced sideways at Solitary Cloud, who was not far away, shouting, "You're quite capable to be able to survive 2 of my blows." That statement was a complete response to Solitary Cloud's initial mockery. However, it was even more arrogant than what Solitary Cloud had said. Solitary Cloud was about to explode from anger. As a WRM, he had been through countless battles and life and death situations up till this point of his cultivation. However, he had never suffered such humiliation. Solitary Cloud was so angry that his body trembled and his blood chi surged as his bones mutated. He was prepared to revert to his true form and kill Suzimo completely. I don't care if you're a horse demon or a monkey demon. You'll have to suffer my wrath for humiliating me as such. I've decided. I'm not going to kill you today. Instead, I'm going to subdue you and turn you into my mount. Solitary Cloud cursed as he transformed. Immediately after, he saw something else and his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets as he exclaimed, "Holy F***CK, what the hell is that?" After Suzimo repelled him, he ignored Solitary Cloud completely and rushed to the battlefield to save Black Wolf and Chanrui. Suzimo's figure slithered in midair like an anaconda and arrived behind a mid-level fiend demon of Cyclone Cave in the blink of an eye. Solitary Cloud was completely dumbfounded. Initially, he thought that Suzimo was a horse demon or a monkey demon. In fact, he might even be a baboon of legends. However, the man before him had turned into an anaconda. Although he was still in human form, his actions and charm were no different from a true python. The mid-level fiend demon of Cyclone Cave had not expected that the territorial lord of Ghastly River would not be able to stop Suzimo, and would be the one to charge over instead. By the time he reacted to it, Suzimo was already behind him. Pust! A strange sound echoed in his ears. Without turning around, the image of an anaconda flicking its tongue appeared in his mind. A chill ran down his spine and his scalp prickled. Before he could do anything, he felt that both his arms and legs were tightly bound. It was impossible for him to break free. A suffocating feeling surged through his mind and he could not use any dermic powers or dermic weapons. The next moment, Su Zimo reared his head and took a deep breath, as though he had transformed into an anaconda that wanted to devour the sun and moon. His flesh and blood instantly swelled. A terrifying power of strangulation descended upon that person. Crack! 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 Right in front of everyone, the body of the fiend demon of Cyclone Cave caved in continuously and the sounds of bones snapping could be heard continuously. At this distance, even mid-level fiend demons would not be able to defend against Su Zimo's killing move. An essence spirit broke out of its shell. Before it could escape, it was grabbed by Su Zimo's palm and crushed, dying on the spot. A mid-level fiend demon was strangled to death. Chapter 828. Pust! What a ferocious melee combat technique! The mid-level fiend demons that were initially attacking Black Wolf and Chanrui were shocked when they caught sight of that and dodged instinctively, pausing their attacks for a moment. Including the 2 territorial lords, they had a total of 14 mid-level fiend demons. However, 3 of them were already dead in the blink of an eye. Don't panic, it's just a low-level fiend demon. Everyone, let's work together and kill him. The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave hollered with a calm expression. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge growled as well. The 9 of you, go kill that man. Leave Black Wolf and Chanrui to us. The demons snapped out of their stupor as well. How strong could a low-level fiend demon be? No matter how ferocious his melee combat techniques were, he only had his fists and legs. How could he defend against 9 fiend demons? No matter how strong his physique was, could he defend against their dermic weapons? Kill! In midair, the demons hollered and attacked at the same time. More than 10 demonic dermic weapons tore through the air and charged towards Su Zimo. The demons of Howling Moon Mountain turned nervous instantly. The combined forces of 9 mid-level fiend demons to kill a low-level fiend demon. This was an unprecedented sight. If it was a mid-level fiend demon, he might not be able to defend against it. Furthermore, the territorial lord of Ghastly River, Solitary Cloud, had already reverted to his true form. His horns were towering and he charged over with a majestic aura. Solitary Cloud's combat strength increased exponentially after reverting to his true form. A W-worm resembled a dragon without horns and a snake with 2 legs. Solitary Cloud was grayish-white in color, and was more than 100 feet long when fully extended. Tiny scales grew on his body, and he had 2 legs beneath his abdomen with sharp claws and fangs. His glabella protruded slightly from where his eyes met, resembling a tumor. If one did not focus their attention, they would not be able to notice it. In reality, that tumor was the horn of a W-worm. W-worms were born without horns. Only by cultivating continuously, comprehending heaven and earth, seizing opportunities and fighting for luck would they have signs of a horn. The deeper one's cultivation was, the more obvious the horn would be. Of course, most W-worms would not be able to cultivate a single horn even after cultivating for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Legend has it that when the horn is fully grown, it meant that the W-worm was about to transform into a true dragon. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 demon weapons had already arrived. Su Zimo's expression didn't change. He slapped his bag of holding and pulled out a black mountain, which began to grow in size. Boom! The black mountain descended and stood tall in midair. At least half of the more than 10 demonic weapons that were flying towards Su Zimo suddenly changed their trajectories and crashed towards the black mountain peak, as if they were attracted by some mysterious force. Ding ding dang dang. These demonic weapons all collided with the black mountain peak, producing a series of crisp sounds and sparks. What was even stranger was that these demonic weapons were all stuck to the black mountain peak, not moving at all. A few fiendish demons' expressions changed drastically. They had actually lost the ability to sense their natal magic artifacts. Their natal dermic artifacts were right in front of them, but they could not control them at all. There were 2 or 3 magical artifacts that were not affected by this pull, but they no longer posed any threat to Su Zimo. Su Zimo's figure flickered continuously, easily dodging these 2 or 3 magic tools. Rumble. Solitary Cloud charged over with a terrifying might, as though the entire Howling Moon Mountain was about to be devoured by him. Solitary Cloud narrowed his gaze and exclaimed softly. It was clear that the Black Mountain Peak was no ordinary object. However, he could clearly sense that there was no aura of dragons on the Black Mountain Peak. It was different from the treasure of dragons that he had guessed. This mountain peak seems to be. Solitary Cloud's eyes lit up as he thought of a possibility. Other fiendish demons might not be able to recognize it, but as a member of the WRM race, he had many ancient inheritances and memories and was naturally more knowledgeable than others. If I'm not wrong, this should be one of the 7 unique treasures, the Mystic Magnet Mountain. To think that this unique treasure would end up in the hands of this person. Solitary Cloud's heart was enlightened. This person possessed the help of this unique treasure and a treasure of dragons that had yet to be revealed. His fortune was truly frightening. It was no wonder why he could replace Black Wolf as the territorial lord of a region. However, although ancient unique treasures were strong, they were not without weaknesses. Everything in the world had a counter. The power of Mystic Magnet had a natural suction force towards some metals and ores. However, it had no effect against many treasures and rare spirit items. For example, gun gold or heaven silver or in bronze or would not be affected by the Mystic Magnet Mountain. As for weapons made from the flesh, skin and bones of demon beasts, the Mystic Magnet Mountain had even less of an effect against them. Petty tricks. Take my dermic weapon. Solitary Cloud sneered and spat out a white beam of light with his mouth wide open. The white beam of light expanded rapidly in midair. It was a gigantic pair of scissors that hovered in midair, protected by clouds and filled with demonic chi. That was Solitary Cloud's destiny dermic weapon, WRM Bone Scissors. It was made from the spines of 2 ferocious WRMs, one male and one female. The WRM's head was used as the handle of the scissors while its tail was used as the blade. It was filled with dense bone spikes that were incomparably sharp. No matter what demon beast or weapon it was, the WRM Bone Scissors would be sliced into 2 instantly. Most importantly, the WRM Bone Scissors were made from WRM bones and the Mystic Magnet Mountain had no effect on it at all. Roar! The WRM Bone Scissors paused for a moment in midair. Demonic chi surged and 2 WRMs were formed. They reared their heads and roared into the skies with a murderous aura, coiling towards Suzimo. Although the WRM Bone Scissors could not be considered as a Khanate Dao being dermic weapon, it was not far from it. Before the 2 WRMs descended, Suzimo felt a sharp pain at his waist, as though he was about to be cut into 2. Humph! Suzimo harumphed coldly and his glabella shone as a green beam of light flew out. The green beam of light expanded rapidly in midair and transformed into a bronze square tripod that was more than a meter tall. It was simple and heavy. Although the tripod was filled with cracks, its edges were distinct, as though it could tear through the firmaments and shatter the earth. Even the heavens and earth could not contain it. Go! Suzimo hollered softly and controlled the bronze square tripod with his spirit consciousness, smashing it towards the WRM Bone Scissors fiercely. Cut it! Solitary Cloud roared as well. Boom! The WRM Bone Scissors collided heavily against the bronze square tripod with a deafening bang. Groar! Immediately after, the 2 WRMs in midair cried tragically and turned into 2 streaks of white light, returning to the WRM Bone Scissors and vanishing. The WRM Bone Scissors dimmed significantly and fell. Solitary Cloud's eyes were bloodshot and his heart ached immensely. That single clash caused the WRM Bone Scissors to be slightly damaged, and it would take at least dozens of years for it to recover to its original state. The bronze square tripod returned to Suzimo unscathed. Although the bronze square tripod looked old and battered with cracks, it was indestructible. That head-on clash was not because Suzimo was extremely strong. It was because the WRM Bone Scissors wanted to destroy the bronze square tripod and was injured instead. How dare you destroy my treasure scissors, you fiend demon! Damn it! Solitary Cloud was enraged and roared. The river behind him surged with torrential waves. Boom! Boom! Like a massive army, it surged towards Suzimo with an apocalyptic aura. At the same time, the few fiend demons who lost their demonic dermic weapons attacked at the same time, and released demonic arts one after another. Instantly, the void was filled with demonic chi and dermic powers rumbled. Chapter 829. At this point of the battle, both parties were no longer probing each other. Apart from Su Zimo, all the demons reverted to their true forms and released their demonic arts. Instantly, the ground quaked and rivers gushed in reverse. This was a clash of dermic arts and there were no tricks involved. The mid-level fiend demons of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave could already tell that Su Zimo's physique was strong and his melee combat strength was terrifying. They might not be able to win. Furthermore, Su Zimo had many treasures with him that were powerful. It would be a bad idea to fight him in melee combat or with dermic weapons. Their cultivation realms were higher than Su Zimo's and their essence spirits were strong, so they could utilize more dermic powers. That was their advantage. Furthermore, including the territorial lord of Ghastly River, Solitary Cloud, there were a total of 10 mid-level fiend demons that attacked at the same time. Multiple streams of dermic powers were released in a massive manner, and even the void above Howling Moon Mountain trembled. The most terrifying thing was Solitary Cloud's demonic art. Worms mostly resided in rivers and lakes. They could summon clouds and rain and were adept at using water. In their rage, they could even create floods that could drown the land and wreak havoc on living beings. Right now, the demonic art that he released was a legacy dermic art of the Wyrm race. Apocalyptic Torrent. Even the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave were shocked when the dermic art was released, let alone the other lesser demons. Even if the two of them joined forces, they would have to avoid the attack. The combat strength of the Wyrm was much stronger than they had imagined. Thankfully, the dermic art was not targeted at them. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave sneered internally and glanced at Su Zimo. Shaking their heads gently, they focused their attention on Black Wolf and Chan Rui once more. In their eyes, Su Zimo was already a dead man. Under such an attack, no one could survive. Even if they were in Su Zimo's shoes, they would only be destroyed in body and spirit. At this moment, the fighting between the demons below paused for a moment. The demons looked over instinctively. In front of the many fiend demons that were so massive that they almost burst through the skies, Su Zimo was as insignificant as an ant. It was as if it would be engulfed by the surging, rumbling torrent of magic power at any moment. However, if someone were to look carefully, they would notice that Su Zimo's expression was calm. There was not the slightest ripple in his eyes. Instead, there was a hint of mockery. Suddenly, beneath Su Zimo's feet, a colossal creature appeared. This colossal creature had 4 legs and 2 heads. It carried a gigantic carapace that was filled with mysterious ravines. It was ancient and seemed to be able to contain the mysteries of the world. Its back propped up the heavens, and its 4 legs were indomitable. It was like a stone pillar that reached the heavens, standing firmly in the torrent. Roar! The 2 heads of the turtle and the snake raised their heads and roared into the sky. Heaven and earth shook. The 9 dermic arts of the fiend demons of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave paused in midair for a brief moment before dissipating. The 9 Dharma spells were all broken. What is this? The demons were in an uproar. Even Solitary Cloud's pupils constricted. The aura released by the 4-legged, 2-headed demon beast caused even him to shudder uncontrollably. What sort of demon beast would possess such a powerful and noble bloodline? 4 legs, 2 heads, 4 legs. Solitary Cloud murmured softly and his eyes lit up as he suddenly thought of a possibility. Could it be the sacred beast Black Tortoise? This was no demon beast. It was a sacred beast. Although Su Zimo's Jin Dan had already vanished, it was extremely easy for him to conjure the tortoise serpent phenomenon with his dermic powers after cultivating to the nascent soul realm. No matter how the torrent surged, it could not shake the tortoise serpent. The tortoise serpent phenomenon was the top of the phenomenon ranking. Even if it was a phantom formed with dermic powers, it was not something that ordinary dermic arts could penetrate. Although the fiend demons around Su Zimo were massive and had torrential demonic chi, they were still much weaker compared to the sacred beast Black Tortoise. Su Zimo rode the tortoise serpent with a burning gaze, and an even stronger aura that could devour mountains and rivers. How dare a mere Wyrm snake try to stir up a storm? What a joke! Under the suppression of the Black Tortoise, the torrent in the voids had indeed calmed down. Solitary Cloud gripped his fists tightly and his body trembled in anger. As a WRM, he hated it the most when others compared WRMs and snakes together. It's merely a phantom formed with dermic powers. It's strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It's not even a real sacred beast. What are you being so arrogant for? Solitary Cloud grit his teeth. That dermic art of yours must have taken a huge toll on your essence spirit. Let's see how many more moves you can take from me. Solitary Cloud had to admit that he was sharp-eyed and extremely sharp. He was not wrong. Su Zimo's tortoise serpent phenomenon was extremely taxing on his scarlet-haired Een spirit. After all, given his cultivation realm, it was already his limit for the scarlet-haired Een spirit to be able to withstand the impact of the dermic arts of 10 mid-level fiend demons. However, Su Zimo was calm as usual and merely smirked coldly without the slightest hint of panic. In the midst of such an intense battle, nobody noticed that Su Zimo's scarlet hair was gradually turning black. Within his consciousness, the scarlet-haired Een spirit had already retreated silently. In its place was the black-haired essence spirit that sat in the middle. It's not about how many moves I can take, it's about how many moves you guys can take from me. Su Zimo circled the demons and his eyes shone with lightning as he reared his head and roared into the skies. Conjuring hand seals rapidly, a thunderous sound echoed from his body. In fact, a series of sinister electric arcs even appeared on the surface of his body. The dark clouds above Howling Moon Mountain turned thicker and rumbled violently. However, under the boundless rain, no one noticed this. Purple thunderstorm. Suddenly, Su Zimo hollered and pointed forward. Boom! One after another streaks of lightning bolts rained down from the dark clouds, connecting the firmaments and the ground. They intertwined continuously and formed a terrifying purple thunderstorm. 6 mid-level fiend demons could not dodge in time and were swept into the thunderstorm. The 6 fiend demons were shocked and gathered their dermic powers to defend against it. However, it was impossible for them to escape unscathed against the might of heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, the dermic power defenses of 2 fiend demons were penetrated. After a few more breaths, the 2 fiend demons were electrocuted to the point where their flesh was lacerated. Ah! Ah! Purple lightning coiled and green smoke billowed from their wounds. The 2 fiend demons writhed in midair and shrieked repeatedly. The remaining 4 fiend demons gave their all and finally charged out of the range of the purple thunderstorm. All of them were covered in injuries and looked wretched. The 4 fiend demons turned back with lingering fear. In that short period of time, the 2 fiend demons were already drowned by the purple thunderstorm and were dead without a single sound. Even if their essence spirits were to leave their bodies, they would be electrocuted to death instantly against the envelopment of the purple thunderstorm. 2 mid-level fiend demons were dead with a single dermic art. All the demons were shocked. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave looked at everything in disbelief and were dumbfounded. That was a dermic art recorded in the Purple Thunder Manual, and possessed the power to destroy heaven and earth. In reality, no matter how strong the purple thunderstorm was, it might not be able to kill mid-level fiend demons that were a major cultivation realm above it with a single strike. The 2 mid-level fiend demons were truly unlucky. The thunderclouds were dense and the rain was torrential. The power of the purple thunderstorm was released to its limits. Chapter 830. At this moment, the demons finally stopped underestimating the other party. They were no match for him in melee combat. Their dermic weapons were destroyed. They were defeated in fights. At this point in the battle, the number of mid-level fiend demons that died in the hands of this person had already reached 5. Even if this person was a low-level fiend demon, no one would dare to underestimate him. Solitary Cloud was enraged, but he was still indignant. As a pure-blooded ferocious beast, his bloodline was noble and strong. Furthermore, he possessed a trace of the bloodline of dragons and his cultivation realm was a major cultivation realm higher than this person. How could he lose if he joined forces with others? If the demons worked together, they could exhaust this person to death even if they had to. Kill. Solitary Cloud opened his mouth and a stream of water gushed out. The moment the stream of water arrived in midair, it transformed into the form of a W-worm. The W-worm soared through the clouds and bared its fangs, charging towards Suzimo viciously as though it could sense its master's wrath. Puny WRM snake break? With a calm expression, Suzimo hollered softly and conjured hand seals once more. Electric arcs surged between his hands and tugged continuously. With a series of crackling sounds, a gigantic shield was formed between his hands in front of him. It was still a dermic art from the Purple Thunder manual, Purple Thunder Shield. The gigantic Purple Thunder Shield was formed entirely from electric arcs, and was bedazzling as it absorbed the power of thunder from the thunderclouds continuously. Boom! The WIRM collided heavily against the Purple Thunder Shield, and let out a deafening sound. The Purple Thunder Shield dissipated. The WRM formed by Solitary Cloud dissipated as well. Making use of the tremendous force of the collision, Suzimo retreated in a flash and arrived before a mid-level fiend demon in the blink of an eye. The mid-level fiend demon had just escaped from the purple thunderstorm and had yet to catch his breath when he felt his vision darken. A gigantic and thick palm had already enveloped him. His mouth was agape with a stunned expression. Just now that he had escaped death, he was covered in injuries and his reaction was slower by half. How could he have expected that Suzimo would appear before him all of a sudden when he was in the midst of fighting against the territorial lord of Ghastly River? It was only a momentary delay, but it had cost him his life. Pa! Suzimo's palm landed on the top of the man's head. The man's skull instantly shattered. The essence spirit in his consciousness was also destroyed by a tremendous force and was destroyed on the spot. Another mid-level fiendish demon had fallen. In the blink of an eye, including the two territorial lords, there were only 8 mid-level fiend demons left in Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave. Ink! Ink! The demons of Howling Moon Mountain burst into cheers as they chanted the name of their territorial lord. Solitary Cloud's expression was ugly. He failed time and time again. Not only did he fail to severely injure Suzimo with his dermic art, the latter even made use of the momentum to kill another mid-level fiend demon. This made him very angry. Finally, the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave realized that something was amiss. If this carried on, all the mid-level fiend demons under their command would be dead while the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain was still alive and kicking. Apart from the 3 territorial lords, the eyes of the remaining 6 mid-tier fiend demons were already filled with panic and fear. If they did not step forward, there was a chance that the 6 fiend demons would turn and flee. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave exchanged glances with a tacit understanding. An injury to the essence spirit was much harder to recover from than an injury to the physical body. There were many spirit herbs and elixirs to treat internal and external injuries. A severely injured physical body would recover after a few years of recuperation. However, spirit herbs and elixirs to treat the essence spirit were extremely rare. A severely injured essence spirit might not be able to recover fully for the rest of one's life, let alone a few years. That was the reason why one's cultivation would be affected as well. It was extremely common for one's cultivation realm to come to a halt. That was the reason why Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave did not choose to fight with their essence spirits at the beginning despite having the advantage. Instead, they chose to exhaust their opponents slowly. The outcome was as they had expected as well. Black Wolf and Chan Rui's dermic powers were depleted, and their essence spirits were greatly drained. Even if they wanted to use their essence spirit secret skills to fight to the death, they were powerless. However, there was a variable in the midst of everything. The variable was so great that it almost turned the tides of the entire battle. They were in a completely passive position. Right now they were forced to use their essence spirit secret skills as well. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave glared at Suzimo coldly from above, as though they were looking at a dead man. At this point of the battle, they had already deduced that although Suzimo was a low-level fiend demon, his bloodline was definitely extraordinary and his essence spirit was strong. However, no matter how strong his essence spirit was, it could not defend against spirit consciousness attacks or essence spirit secret skills. Furthermore, 9 mid-level fiend demons were attacking at the same time. No matter how great the variable was, it would be eliminated. Solitary Cloud looked at Suzimo with a conflicted gaze. Actually, in the depths of his heart, he still wanted to suppress Suzimo single-handedly and subdue the latter as his mount. He could even take the treasures of the dragons in the latter's possession for himself. But now that wish was unlikely to be fulfilled. This person would definitely die against an essence spirit's secret skill. If they wanted to snatch away the treasures of the dragons in the latter's possession, they might have to fight a tough battle against Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave. Chapter 831. Su Zimo stood in midair with a grim expression. Indeed, this was the most dangerous moment for him. His bloodline was frightening and his physique was strong. Even the dermic arts he cultivated were of the highest quality, heaven-grade cultivation techniques from immortals and Buddhas. However, no matter how strong his bloodline or physique was, he could not defend against the power of an essence spirit. His body would not suffer any damage from the spirit consciousness attack. That was a killing power that targeted the essence spirit directly. In a fight between essence spirits, one could only use the essence spirit to defend. Alternatively, they could make use of extremely rare essence spirit dermic weapons. Furthermore, Su Zimo was only at early stage nascent soul realm. Even with the fusion of his two essence spirits, he could not compare to the essence spirits of 9 mid-level fiend demons. Su Zimo knew that he could only truly resolve the crisis of Howling Moon Mountain if he could tide through this ordeal. At this most dangerous moment, Su Zimo acted out of character and closed his eyes. The demons were in an uproar. In the eyes of the demons, Su Zimo's action was more like a sign of him giving up on resisting and waiting for death. What the demons did not know was that Su Zimo had not only closed his eyes, he had sealed his 6 senses as well. At that moment his mind calmed down instantly. It was as though he had entered a state where he was connected to the heavens, and his physical body had already vanished. Su Zimo relied solely on his spirit perception to sense everything around him. In his senses, the 9 spirit consciousness attacks came in different forms. There was a W-worm, a scorpion and a bloodbat. All of them came from different angles. Among them, 4 of the spirit consciousnesses were clearly stronger. Su Zimo realized that the 4 spirit consciousness attacks were released using essence spirit secret skills. As for the other 5, they were merely ordinary spirit consciousness attacks. Within his consciousness, the scarlet-haired Een spirit stood up and approached the black-haired essence spirit before fusing together rapidly. The only way to defend against this terrifying attack was to fuse the 2 essence spirits. At the same time, Su Zimo's left wrist shone with a bedazzling golden light that was divine and flawless, forming an indestructible barrier around him. This barrier could not block the attacks of Dharma spells and Dharma artifacts. However, it was able to withstand the impact of divine sense. Wang! 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 Almost at the same time, 9 spiritual consciousness attacks hit the golden barrier. Ripples began to appear on the barrier, as if it was water rippling. 5 ordinary divine sense attacks were intercepted. However, the power of the other 4 essence spirit secret skills caused cracks to appear on the golden barrier that extended rapidly. The golden barrier came from the Mingwang prayer beads. The Mingwang prayer beads were the most precious treasures of the Daming Temple. Of course, its true power was not limited to this. But now, the Mingwang prayer beads on Su Zimo's left wrist was only an incomplete magical item. Moreover, Su Zimo was limited by his cultivation level, and was unable to truly refine this magic item. He could only unleash 20 to 30% of its power. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the golden barrier exploded. The light of the Mingwang prayer beads dimmed, for spirit consciousnesses penetrated Su Zimo's body and barged into his consciousness like starving ferocious beasts. Among them were the spirit consciousnesses of the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge, Cyclone Cave and Ghastly River. Within his consciousness, the 2 essence spirits had already fused. A brand new essence spirit assumed a lotus position on the green lotus platform. His hair was black and red and he had a cold expression. He had used all his trump cards throughout the entire process. Apart from the Mingwang prayer beads and the spirit consciousness dragon scales, he also had the protection of the 9 resplendent lights of the creation Qinglian. This was also one of the mystical aspects of the creation Qinglian that Su Zimo had discovered in the past half a year. Above Howling Moon Mountain, Su Zimo opened his eyes and finally revealed a smile. However, the 9 mid-level fiend demons surrounding him were rooted to the spot with frozen expressions. It was as though they had lost their souls. The demons were confused. Although the fight between essence spirits took a long time to describe, it ended in the blink of an eye. The demons merely saw 9 divine lights charging towards Suzimo. 5 of them shattered and 4 of them entered Suzimo's glabella. Immediately after, the world went silent. Suzimo opened his eyes and smiled. The 9 mid-level fiend demons were shocked. Could they have lost? Even the spirit consciousness attacks of 9 mid-level fiend demons could not kill this man? The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had terrible expressions. In reality, their spirit consciousnesses were severed from their bodies the moment they entered Suzimo's consciousness. They did not know what was happening within. However, Solitary Cloud could vaguely sense the aura of dragons through Suzimo's glabella before his spirit consciousness dissipated. I've got it. That treasure of the dragons must be a spirit consciousness dermic weapon, and is hidden within his consciousness. Solitary Cloud was enlightened. Chapter 832. The 9 mid-level fiend demons were bewildered and had yet to recover from their stupor. Suzimo had already attacked. At this point of the battle, the 9 mid-level fiend demons before him no longer posed any threat to him. Splash! Suzimo channeled his blood chi, and the sound of a tsunami could be heard from his body in a frightening manner. All the demons were shocked when they heard that sound. Tsunami blood. That was the result of cultivating one's bloodline to its limits. Solitary Cloud had a grim expression. Although he was a pure-blooded ferocious beast with a noble and strong bloodline, he had not cultivated to that level yet. Swash! Suzimo had already vanished from the spot. Because he was too fast, he left afterimages in midair that lingered for a long time. Bang! One of the mid-level fiend demons was momentarily distracted, and felt a destructive power as his massive body was sent flying instantly. While he was still in midair, he exploded and a blood mist spewed out, dyeing the mountain peak red. Another mid-level fiend demon was dead. There were 8 left. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge had a cold gaze as he swayed his poisonous and sharp scorpion tail. Charging towards Suzimo, he hollered, "Kill! This man is filled with treasures from head to toe. It'll be a great opportunity for us after we kill him." The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave said coldly as well. Without saying a word, Solitary Cloud had already charged towards Suzimo on a cloud and let out a roar. Under the lead of the 3 territorial lords, the remaining 5 mid-level fiend demons charged forward as well. Bang! 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 8 massive fiend demons surrounded Suzimo. Suzimo's body was tiny like an ant. However, every single move he made released a terrifying power of blood chi that dissipated the attacks of the 8 fiend demons. There was no way the fiend demons were a match for him in melee combat. His figure intertwined and spun. After a series of exchanges, the 8 fiend demons felt as though their tendons and bones were about to break apart. Solitary Cloud looked even more miserable. He was indignant and charged forward to take 2 punches from Suzimo head-on. However, a few of his claws were broken and he was in excruciating pain. Black Sand Eclipse. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge roared. His essence spirit had already been pushed to its limits and released the secret skill of the scorpion race. Black sand blew around him and covered the sky. Don't underestimate it just because it's simple sand. Actually, every single grain of sand was condensed from dermic powers and was tainted with a deadly poison. Ordinary demonic beasts that were swallowed by the black sand would turn into pitch-black skeletons in less than 10 breaths, their flesh and blood dissipating. Back then, the young master of Black Sand Ridge released this demonic art. In the end, even Suzimo's body couldn't be harmed and was easily neutralized. Although they were both mid-level fiend demons, the dermic powers of the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge's demonic art were much stronger, and it was clear that it was much stronger. Suzimo frowned slightly. After the battle between the primordial spirits, his 2 primordial spirits were already exhausted. It was difficult for them to cast any spells to defend themselves. However, this black sand eclipse was extremely destructive. If he were to forcefully withstand it with his physical body, he would probably be injured. A resolute look flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Since that's the case, I'll settle this once and for all. Su Zimo reared his head and roared. I'll let you guys have a taste of my capabilities as well. Before he finished his sentence, scarlet demonic chi surged around him continuously, forming ancient demons with menacing gazes and claws that were extremely lifelike. There was a wild ox, stone bear, sanguine ape, anaconda, divine steed, hell tiger and wind leopard. The 7 demons were massive and had terrifying auras. Some of them were dozens of feet tall while others were dozens of feet long. They glared with bloodshot eyes that were filled with killing intent. Although Su Zimo's figure was tiny against the encirclement of the 7 demons, he seemed to be the sole ruler of the entire universe and was insufferably arrogant. What's that? What's up with those demon beasts? Heavens, what's that man's true form? How can he condense so many demon beasts? A series of exclamations could be heard from the foot of Howling Moon Mountain. Beneath the firmaments, the 7 demons stood in midair as though they had existed since ancient times and had reversed the flow of time to look down on the masses. The demons were shocked. Given the knowledge of the demon beasts present, none of them could recognize that it was a bloodline phenomenon. Solitary Cloud was the only one who vaguely recalled some words from the depths of his memories, and his face turned incomparably pale with a bewildered expression. Bloodbat Sound Domain. The territorial lord of Cyclone Cave was already bloodthirsty, and could not be bothered anymore as he released a secret skill. Sound Domain was a secret skill unique to the bat race. If one was not prepared, their eardrums would be pierced instantly when the secret skill was released. In fact, the essence spirits of weaker demon beasts would even be destroyed by the Sound Domain secret skill. A series of ripples appeared in the voids. The Sound Domain secret skill had already materialized and surged towards Su Zimo with endless killing intent. Su Zimo's gaze was clear as he opened his mouth motionlessly. Along with his actions, the 7 demons that were initially encircling him opened their mouths at the same time. Roar! A roar burst forth from the mouths of the 7 demons and Su Zimo at the same time with a devouring might. Against that roar, the Sound Domain secret skill of the territorial lord of Cyclone Cave seemed insignificant and dissipated instantly into nothingness. The 8 mid-level fiend demons in the surroundings shuddered. Below, some of the low-level fiend demons that could not dodge in time even bled from the corners of their mouths, eyes, nostrils and ears in a menacing manner. The spirit demons that filled the entire area hugged the ground tightly and kept silent out of fear. Solitary Cloud shuddered and snapped out of his thoughts. He felt a piercing pain in his ears and turned towards Su Zimo instinctively. Go! Su Zimo hollered softly, and the 7 demons that encircled him had already charged forward. A mid-level fiend demon's mind went blank from the shock, and he had a dazed expression. The Hell Tiger lunged forward and bit off his head, destroying his essence spirit. The 7 demons charged towards the 7 mid-level fiend demons. Solitary Cloud was the only one who did not charge over. However, the moment Solitary Cloud looked at Su Zimo, the latter turned around slowly and looked over as well. The next moment, Solitary Cloud caught sight of something that shocked him to the core. Su Zimo had an indifferent gaze and a slender figure of a demon beast appeared behind him. It was faintly discernible and coiled around his neck, spiraling upwards. It was the 8th demon. The figure of the Demon King had already condensed and resembled both a WIRM and a python. However, its face was blurry and could not be seen clearly. Could this demon be a WIRM? Before Solitary Cloud's thought was completed, his gaze landed beneath the abdomen of the 8th demon and froze. There were 4 claws beneath the abdomen of that demon. WRMS had 2 legs. Those that had 4 legs were true dragons. Immediately after, Solitary Cloud's pupils constricted violently. One after another, scales appeared on the surface of that person's body and disappeared instantly. Pust! Solitary Cloud gasped with a shocked expression. He suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. There were no treasures of dragons at all. The only thing that existed was a true dragon. The so-called aura of dragons was emitted by the true dragon before him. It was no wonder why this person's combat strength was so strong and his bloodline was so frightening. It was no wonder why this person said arrogantly that even as a WRM, he was not qualified to witness this person's true form. The lifelong wish of the Wyrm race was to transform into a dragon. But now he had seen a true dragon. There was a thud. Solitary Cloud knelt on the ground in fright. Chapter 833. The descent of the bloodline phenomenon crushed the final hopes of the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave. The two territorial lords were scared out of their wits. These methods were beyond their knowledge. Both of them chose to escape without hesitation right away. Now that the two territorial lords were fleeing, the remaining mid-level fiend demons could not be bothered and turned to flee as well. However, the two territorial lords were the first to react. Furthermore, their speed was far faster than others, and they managed to escape the range of the bloodline phenomenon by a hair's breadth. However, the remaining mid-level fiend demons were not as lucky. The Wild Bull, Sanguine Ape and the other Grand Ancient demons charged forward and killed all of them. Their flesh and blood splattered and their essence spirits were destroyed. It was an extremely tragic sight. On the other side, the territorial lord of Ghastly River was kneeling on the ground in fear for some unknown reason. However, at this point in the battle, no one had the time to pay attention to that. The territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had a tacit understanding and fled in two different directions. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge reverted to his human form. His massive scorpion form was truly inconvenient for him to escape in the dense forest filled with ancient trees. On the contrary, his movement techniques became much more agile, and he became a smaller target after reverting to his human form. Whoosh! Whoosh! The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge sprinted with all his might and could only hear the wind howling in his ears. His entire body was cold and he was drenched in sweat. Once I return to Black Sand Ridge, I'll definitely gather experts and make a comeback. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge roared internally with a forlorn expression. As a territorial lord who had ruled over Black Sand Ridge for thousands of years, he naturally had some connections and knew many experts. There was no way he was going to let this matter rest after suffering such a huge loss. His essence spirit was starting to ache due to the continuous expenditure of energy as he fled. Even so, the sense of danger behind him did not disappear and followed him like a shadow. Furthermore, it was getting increasingly urgent. Could that person have caught up to me? The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge could not help but turn back to take a look. That single glance scared him out of his wits and his legs turned wobbly. He saw that not far behind him, a violet bolt of lightning was speeding over. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was really like a bolt of lightning. The distance between the two of them was closing rapidly. Although he could not see it clearly, the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge knew that the purple bolt of lightning was the demon beast named Mo. Lightning escape. It was an escape technique from the Purple Thunder manual. Although this escape technique was not as explosive and fast as the blood escape technique, it did not have any side effects on the body. Sir, please spare my life. When the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge realized that he could not escape, he suddenly paused in his tracks and turned around. Bowing to Suzimo, he shouted, "I'm willing to submit." The two of them were extremely close to each other. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge was scared out of his wits and looked flustered, as though he had given up on resisting. If it were anyone else, they would have let down their guard at this moment. However, the moment the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge spoke, he curled his tongue and spat out a black beam of light with a nauseating stench, piercing towards Suzimo's face. Actually, the magic weapon that was taken away by the Profound Disruption Mountain wasn't his natal magic weapon. This black poisonous needle was the real one. The black poisonous needle was refined using the strongest poison in his body, the venom of the scorpion tail. It was refined day and night. Even pure-blooded ferocious beasts might not be able to withstand the intensity of the poison. He had managed to retaliate and escape death multiple times with that move. There were countless mid-level fiend demons in the massive Thousand Demon Valley. He wouldn't have been able to become a territorial lord without any true capabilities. However, it was a pity that his move might only be effective against others. It was truly ineffective against Suzimo. Suzimo cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, and had the help of his spirit perception. The moment the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge turned around, he had already sensed danger. Suddenly, a bedazzling brilliance burst forth from his right eye, as though there was a blazing sun. Instantly, the rainwater in the surroundings evaporated. Visual technique illumination dragon eye. A beam of light tore through the void and brushed past the black poisonous needle in midair, piercing through the head of the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge instantly. Both parties were way too close. This also meant that there was no way the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge could dodge that killing move. There was no blood dripping. It had long been burnt to a crisp. The black poisonous needle dimmed and fell to the ground. Even his destiny-dermic weapon was crippled against the gaze of the illumination dragon eye. The territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge's eyes were widened. Although his expression was still menacing when he suddenly attacked, there was a hint of shock in his eyes. He truly had not expected that his killing move would be dispelled by Su Zimo so easily. More than that, he had not expected that he would die here in the blink of an eye. A territorial lord was dead. He no longer had the chance to return to Black Sand Ridge. With an indifferent expression, Su Zimo waved his robes and swept up the storage bag of the territorial lord of Black Sand Ridge into his robes. Without even looking at the corpse, he turned and returned. There were still the territorial lords of Cyclone Cave and Ghastly River to deal with. Lightning flashed and Su Zimo had already vanished from the spot into the forest. The moment he arrived above Howling Moon Mountain, Black Wolf and Chan Rui had already arrived. Both of them had odd expressions and hesitated to speak. Solitary Cloud, the territorial lord of Ghastly River, stood beside the two of them. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. Could Solitary Cloud have kidnapped Black Wolf and Chan Rui to threaten him? Before that thought was completed, Solitary Cloud took a step forward and arrived before Su Zimo. With a thud, he knelt on one knee and cupped his fists. Territorial Lord, I, Solitary Cloud, am willing to lead all the demons of Ghastly River to submit to you. Chapter 834. After the battle, the ground was littered with corpses and devastation. However, the demon beasts that survived Howling Moon Mountain were all excited, as they picked up all sorts of spoils of war from the ground. They had won this battle. Initially, Howling Moon Mountain was already in a precarious state, and could be destroyed at any moment. However, the appearance of a single person reversed the tides of the battle. The demons raised their heads and looked at the figure on the peak of Howling Moon Mountain with respect and an uncontrollable fervor in their eyes. In the world of demons, the strong reigned supreme. After this battle, the rise of Howling Moon Mountain was inevitable and nobody could stop it. The Rat King puffed his chest and shuttled through the crowd with a domineering air. From time to time, lesser demons would gather around with fawning expressions and offer up their spoils of war. Indeed, he had a reason to be domineering. No matter what, he was the one who brought Su Zimo over from the ancient battlefield. Among the demons, he was also the first to get acquainted with Su Zimo. That alone was enough to prove that his position among the demons was unshakable. On the peak, Monkey, Linghu and Ching Ching arrived covered in blood. Some of it belonged to others and some of it belonged to them. Caw. Awesome. Monkey licked his lips and grinned, as though he could not feel the pain on his body. After he became a fiend demon, there was finally a huge battle that he could enjoy. Together with Linghu and Ching Ching, he chased after the fiend demons of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave for dozens of kilometers before returning. Although Little Fox was already used to life in the forest, she did not enjoy killing. After the demon beasts of the two territories fled, she stopped chasing and arrived beside Su Zimo. Go and rest first and recuperate well, Su Zimo smiled. There might be a few more battles in the coming days. He was already prepared to head to Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave to take over those two territories as well after a period of time. Be it a territorial lord or an overlord, the larger the territory the better. The larger the territory, the more demon beasts they would have under them. It also meant that there would be more resources such as universal treasures, spirit herbs and ores in the territory. Territorial Lord, thank you for protecting Howling Moon Mountain. He Lang bowed deeply to Su Zimo. Without Su Zimo, the outcome of today's battle would have been completely different. Howling Moon Mountain would be divided between Black Sand Ridge, Cyclone Cave and Ghastly River, and would cease to exist. But now that Ghastly River had submitted, Howling Moon Mountain's territory had more than doubled. At that thought, Black Wolf's gaze shifted towards Solitary Cloud instinctively. It was understandable that the territorial lords of Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave had lost. It was just that he was not strong enough. Among them, the strangest one was the overlord of Ghastly River. The other two lords still had a trace of hope, so they turned around and fled. This one was really straightforward. He actually chose to submit. Right then, Solitary Cloud said, "Territorial Lord, I see that you're alone. You don't have a mount?" "Yes." Suzimo nodded and didn't think too much about it. "That's good." Solitary Cloud was delighted and said hurriedly, "Territorial Lord, let me be your mount then." Black Wolf and Chanrui were wondering why Solitary Cloud would submit all of a sudden and if there was any scheme behind it. When they heard that, their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. This was no longer considered as submission. It was practically sprawling on the ground. Which demon beast would take the initiative to request to be the mount of another? It was understandable that Solitary Cloud would follow a peerless expert or an overlord. However, this was a low-level fiend demon. "There's no need for that." Suzimo waved it off. "You're the Deputy Territorial Lord of Howling Moon Mountain. Wouldn't your status be much lower if you were to become my mount?" It's fine, Solitary Cloud waved it off hurriedly. "I don't want to be the Deputy Territorial Lord. I'll be your mount." Black Wolf and Chanrui were stunned when they heard that. Solitary Cloud was the most arrogant person in the surrounding territories. As a pure-blooded ferocious beast, he did have the right to be arrogant. However, what was going on right now? The difference in attitude before and after was way too great. Could it be that he could obtain some sort of tremendous benefits by becoming the mount of a territorial lord? That thought was fleeting and the two of them did not think too much about it. In reality, there were indeed immense benefits for Solitary Cloud if he were to become Suzimo's mount. After Solitary Cloud guessed Suzimo's true form and became the latter's mount, he would be able to accompany the latter and cultivate together with him. Even if he could absorb a little bit of the aura of dragons, it would bring unimaginable benefits to Solitary Cloud's cultivation. Dragons. They were existences that reigned supreme in the primordial era. In Solitary Cloud's opinion, as a dragon, Suzimo must have come to this remote place to be a territorial lord for a moment of playfulness. Once he was done playing, he would definitely return. If he could follow Suzimo and return to the sacred ground of dragons, the chances of him transforming into a dragon would be much greater. Suzimo pondered for a moment and guessed Solitary Cloud's thoughts. "Are you sure?" Suzimo smiled gently with a strange gaze. "I'm sure. I won't go back on my word." Solitary Cloud nodded hurriedly. "I'm willing to swear a blood oath to follow you for life, forever." "There's no need." Suzimo waved it off and interrupted him. "If you're willing, it's up to you." "Thank you, Master." Solitary Cloud had already changed the way he addressed Suzimo. "Your position as Deputy Territorial Lord will not change. Go back and recuperate before preparing to attack Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave." Suzimo said in a deep voice. "Understood." Solitary Cloud bowed in response. Suzimo stood on the peak of the mountain with Monkey, Linghu, Qing and Little Fox standing behind him. Suzimo's scarlet hair draped over his shoulders as he looked into the distance with a deep gaze and murmured, "From this day forth, the five of us are going to lead a carefree life." Suzimo gazed towards the north with a hint of melancholy in his eyes. He was far away from his homeland and might not be able to return within a short period of time. Qing, look. I dug out this beautiful string of pearls from a pile of corpses painstakingly. It's the best match for your face. Get lost. Don't disgust me. Brother who doesn't know how to coax people, little Tanuki teased with a smile. When he heard the laughter around him, the melancholy in Suzimo's eyes dissipated and he smiled in a carefree manner. At the very least he had Monkey, Linghu, Qing and Little Fox by his side. He would have less of a headache in the future. Thousand Demon Valley was destined to experience a turbulent storm because of the five of them. A month later, the army of Howling Moon Mountain split into two groups. Su Zimo and Solitary Cloud led one group each and headed for Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave. Solitary Cloud fought the demons of Cyclone Cave for half a day, and they submitted. Su Zimo descended upon Black Sand Ridge and killed half of the Black Scorpion race, causing the demons of Black Sand Ridge to submit. Thereafter, in less than half a year, Howling Moon Mountain integrated Black Sand Ridge and Cyclone Cave completely, and their territory expanded rapidly. Howling Moon Mountain's reputation soared. In the following period of time, Howling Moon Mountain had a few more battles with the nearby territories that ended in complete victory. Howling Moon Mountain's territory expanded once more. Mo's reputation skyrocketed. Many experts were attracted by his reputation and joined one after another, causing the power of Howling Moon Mountain to grow gradually. Later on, Su Zimo rarely appeared. With Solitary Cloud, Black Wolf and the other demons presiding over the situation, it was enough for Howling Moon Mountain to continue developing normally. Time passed and the world changed. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. Chapter 835. Peak of Howling Moon Mountain. A figure stood with his hands behind his back. A gentle breeze blew and his robes fluttered. His scarlet hair danced wildly and his eyes were clear and deep like the ocean. That person had delicate features and looked like a scholar in his 20s. Time did not seem to have left any traces on his face. However, there was an occasional look of vicissitudes in the depths of his eyes. Su Zimo looked into the distance with an emotional expression. The ancients often said that there was no age in the mountains. It was only today that he truly understood that feeling. For mortals of the mortal world, 100 years was most likely a lifetime. However, for Jining Jinjuan, who had a lifespan of 1,000 years, it was truly nothing much. Howling Moon Mountain was still rather peaceful after 100 years. However, he did not know if anything major happened in the cultivation world, or if any paragons or monster incarnates were born. He did not know if his old friends were doing well. For the past 100 years, Su Zimo had not slacked off. His cultivation realm was already at the peak of mid-stage nascent soul realm. For Jining Zhenjuan, that cultivation speed was not considered slow. Most importantly, for the past 100 years, Su Zimo's two essence spirits had been nurturing the creation Qinglian. Right now, the creation Qinglian was at grade 4 as well. In terms of power, the grade 4 creation Qinglian was not weaker than a Khanate perfected Lord Dermic weapon. Not only that, for the past 100 years, Su Zimo spent most of his attention and effort researching the ancient book left behind by the mighty figure of Tomb Sect. That ancient book recorded the attempts and methods of many predecessors, as well as how mortals without spirit roots should cultivate. Su Hong's death and the plight of the citizens of Yin country had a huge impact on Su Zimo. That was the reason why he swore to establish a Tao and change the fates of all living beings in the world. That Tao was for all living beings without spirit roots to be able to cultivate and control their own fates. He had gained a lot in the past 100 years. Actually, be it the immortal Buddhist or fiend Taoist, core formation was the most important threshold. Su Zimo discovered that as long as he broke through his core formation and cultivated his essence spirit, the effects of his spirit root would be negligible. In other words, the spiritual root was only a stepping stone for cultivation. The most important thing was to condense a golden core under the premise that one did not have a spirit root. Cultivating to become a demon was naturally possible. However, Su Zimo couldn't expect all the people in the world to train to the end like him, only to be despised by the majority of cultivators. Following this train of thought, Su Zimo studied the ancient book, constantly comprehending and deducing, and really gained quite a bit of insight. Of course, he did not neglect the Yin Spirit section, the Purple Thunder Manual, and the Vairocana Sutra. He often cultivated and comprehended the Dharma spells and gained some insights from them. At this moment, a blood-red pillar of light suddenly rose from the distant horizon. It pierced through the clouds and soon disappeared. This blood-colored light pillar was extremely far away from Howling Moon Mountain, its exact location unknown. Looking at the dissipating bloodlight, Su Zimo frowned slightly. A sense of déjà vu appeared in his mind, but it disappeared in an instant. Solitary Cloud, Su Zimo called out softly. A figure appeared from the darkness not far behind him. It was the original territorial lord of Ghastly River, Su Zimo's current mount Solitary Cloud. 100 years later, Solitary Cloud was still a mid-level fiend demon. However, his aura seemed to have become purer and the divine light in his eyes was retracted. It was clear that his cultivation had improved greatly. All these years, Solitary Cloud had been observing from the side when Su Zimo was cultivating. Each time Su Zimo cultivated the Een Spirit section of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, he would release the aura of dragons. For Solitary Cloud, that aura was extremely beneficial. Su Zimo asked, "Do you know what that blood light that surged into the skies just now was?" "It should be released by the 1,000-year blood sea," Solitary Cloud replied. 1,000-year blood sea? Su Zimo murmured softly. Solitary Cloud explained, "The 1,000-year blood sea is a lake in the center of Thousand Demon Valley. Because it's extremely huge and you can't see the end of it, it's called a sea. However, there's something strange about this sea. As time passes by, the color of the sea will turn darker until it reaches its peak after 1,000 years. It's as red as blood." Su Zimo asked again, "What's the story behind the 1,000-year blood sea?" Solitary Cloud replied, "It's said that the blood sea contains the essence, blood and souls of demon beasts that died in Thousand Demon Valley for the past 1,000 years. If fiend demons can cultivate in it, their cultivation will improve at a godly speed." "Oh." Su Zimo raised his brow and asked instead, "Since that's the case, doesn't that mean that the blood sea is a treasure ground where everyone fights for supremacy and fights break out at every moment?" That was indeed the case initially. Solitary Cloud nodded. However, later on, the battles were way too tragic and escalated continuously. In fact, there were even high-level territorial lords that died one after another. As such, the 7 overlords of Thousand Demon Valley decided to stop fighting and share the 1,000-year blood sea. The blood sea opens once every 1,000 years and there's a total of 10 spots. The 7 overlords will send their territorial lords to fight for those 10 spots. When he heard that, Su Zimo could not help but ask, "Since the 1,000-year blood sea is so good, why don't high-level fiend demons cultivate in it?" The energy within the blood sea is limited and high-level fiend demons won't be able to improve significantly if they cultivate in it. However, the essence spirits and bodies of low-level fiend demons can't withstand the energy of the blood sea. Therefore, mid-level fiend demons are naturally the most suitable ones. Solitary Cloud pondered for a moment before continuing. Of course, given Lord Mo's strength, there shouldn't be any issues for him to cultivate in the blood sea. Su Zimo nodded. In the past 100 years, the soul-nourishing blood ginseng and other items for tempering the soul that he obtained from the ancient battlefield had long been depleted. Su Zimo's cultivation realm and creation Qinglian's grade had both reached a bottleneck. If one were to enter seclusion wholeheartedly after reaching a bottleneck, they might not make any progress even after cultivating for hundreds or thousands of years. At that time, cultivators had to travel outside. It could be an opportunity or a huge battle. Or perhaps, they could achieve an epiphany and breakthrough simply by arriving at an unfamiliar place. According to Solitary Cloud's words, the opportunity to cultivate in the 1,000-year blood sea was not to be missed. However, there were extremely few spots to cultivate in the blood sea, and a fierce battle was inevitable if one wanted to fight for a spot. Su Zimo asked again, "How do we fight for a spot to cultivate in the blood sea?" "The 1,000 demon meet." Solitary Cloud replied, "A 1,000 demon meet will be held a month later near the 1,000-year blood sea. At that time, a few overlords and many territorial lords of Thousand Demon Valley will arrive, and it can be considered as a grand event for us demons." Solitary Cloud pondered for a moment and continued, "If Lord Mo wants to participate, we'll have to pay a visit to the overlord of Howling Moon Mountain's territory first." Overlords were above territorial lords. There were 7 overlords in Thousand Demon Valley. Every single overlord had countless territorial lords under them. Even Solitary Cloud had not seen the overlord of Howling Moon Mountain's territory before. It was said to be a fiend ape in Ape Chatter Ridge. Alright, let's head to Ape Chatter Ridge 3 days later. Now that Su Zimo had made up his mind, he did not hesitate and gave the order right away. Chapter 836. Zimo did not bring many people with him for this trip. Apart from Monkey and the other three, there was also Solitary Cloud and the Rat King. Black Wolf and Chan Rui were left behind at Howling Moon Mountain to guard the territory in case other territories took advantage of the situation. Solitary Cloud reverted to his true form as a worm, and Zimo and the others rode on his back. As a pure-blooded ferocious beast and a mid-level fiend demon, there were few demon beasts that were foolish enough to offend them along the way. Everyone traveled day and night, traversing mountains and ridges, crossing dozens of territories. They only arrived near Ape Chatter Ridge after half a month. In front of him was a magnificent forest. The reason why it was majestic was because every single ancient tree in the forest had existed for an unknown period of time. One after another, they towered into the skies with lush foliage. Their trunks were thick and solid, resembling pillars that connected to the heavens. Vines crawled on top of them like coiling pythons. Zimo and the others were not even as thick as the roots of those ancient trees. In this forest the light was dim, making it seem eerie and terrifying. Solitary Cloud reverted to his human form and everyone descended. Everyone could not conceal the shock in their eyes as they gazed at the forest before them. For some unknown reason, they felt an inexplicable pressure in their hearts. Zimo asked, "Solitary Cloud, how much do you know about the Overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge?" "There are a total of 7 overlords in Thousand Demon Valley. It's said that this fiend ape has reigned for the longest time, perhaps 5,000 years. Solitary Cloud replied. 5,000 years of reigning? Zimo's expression was grim. Overlords were not only high-level fiend demons. They were the strongest existences among high-level fiend demons. They could only reign over an area if their combat strength was superior to those of the same cultivation realm. He did not know anything about this overlord and was feeling uneasy about coming here recklessly. After all, his cultivation realm was at the peak of mid-stage nascent soul realm right now. If he used all his trump cards, he could cross a major cultivation realm and fight against mid-level fiend demons. However, if he were to face high-level fiend demons, or even the strongest overlords among high-level fiend demons, Zimo would definitely stand no chance of winning. During the battle at Misty Peak, the old immortal crane broke through her bottleneck and transformed into a high-level fiendish demon. At that time, Shura had mentioned to Zimo that after becoming a high-level fiendish demon, the demon beasts would awaken their innate abilities. Spiritual energy was inferior to magical energy. Dermic powers were no match for divine powers. This was an absolute suppression in terms of strength. Zimo gazed at the dark and sinister scene before him with a flickering gaze. Our future is uncertain after entering Ape Chatter Ridge. Everyone try to keep a low profile and don't be rash. Zimo rarely exhorted everyone like this. In Howling Moon Mountain, everyone could do whatever they wanted. But this was Ape Chatter Ridge. The master of this territory was a high-tier fiendish demon. Furthermore, there was definitely more than one high-level fiend demon in this territory. Apart from Solitary Cloud, most of them were low-level fiend demons, and there was a difference of 2 major cultivation realms between them. The moment a conflict broke out, they would be crushed like ants. Sure. The Rat King nodded repeatedly. Even before entering Ape Chatter Ridge, he was already pale with fright. Initially, he wanted to broaden his horizons by witnessing the Thousand Demon meet. But now, he was already regretting his decision to pay a visit to an overlord even before the Thousand Demon meet. Linghu extended his finger and poked Monkey, saying mockingly, "Brother Monkey, I'm talking to you. Don't be rash. Get lost." Monkey slapped away Linghu's palm. Although that was the case, Monkey knew that he was indeed the most rash in their group. The reason why Zimo was so cautious was not only because he knew nothing about Ape Chatter Ridge, but also because he had a vague feeling. It was as though he was on a whim. He had a feeling that something big was about to happen in Ape Chatter Ridge. Fufu, which territory is this? Why are a bunch of low-level fiend demons here to join in the fun? Suddenly, a stifled laughter sounded from not far away. Everyone frowned and turned over. A black wind swept by, and after it dissipated, more than 100 fiend demons appeared. All of them had powerful auras and frightening gazes. All of them were mid-level fiend demons. Their leader had a scrawny face with an aquiline nose and thin lips. His gaze was sharp and his face was filled with disdain. Monkey gripped his fists gently and glared at that person with a scarlet glint in the depths of his eyes. Ling Hu and the others lamented internally. Trouble came knocking before they even entered Ape Chatter Ridge. The other party had many people and every single one of them was a mid-level fiend demon that was extremely strong. Their chances of winning were not high the moment they fought. Furthermore, they did not know the background of that group of people, and it was truly inadvisable to get into a conflict with them. Ling Hu and the others glanced sideways at Monkey, afraid that he would get into a conflict with the other party in a fit of rage. Monkey took a deep breath of air and closed his eyes gradually to endure it. If it was in the past, he would have charged forward a long time ago when he heard those words and saw the provocation on the other party's face. No matter how many people they had or what their cultivation realms were, he would fight them till they toppled the world. Su Zimo was expressionless and lowered his gaze. Sir, those puny demons are so scared that they don't even dare to speak. Sir is mighty. Hurry, look at that rat demon. He's so scared that his face is ashen and his legs are trembling. He's truly as timid as a mouse. Ha 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 ha. The fiend demons roared in laughter. Suddenly, Monkey opened his eyes with a menacing expression and bared his teeth slightly. Right as he was about to stand out and speak, the Rat King beside him stood in front of Monkey in a flash. I'm way too timid. I've embarrassed myself in front of you, sir. The Rat King had a humble expression and smiled in a fawning manner. Scram. Don't let me see you guys ever again. The eagle-nosed man in the lead waved his hand casually and sneered with a disgusted expression. I'm afraid that killing a puny demon like you will dirty my hands. Wowie, sir, you're right. The Rat King bowed and smiled obsequiously. Let's go. The eagle-nosed man called out and the demons entered Ape Chatter Ridge amidst laughter. That seems to be one of the 10 great territorial lords, Ing Li. That's him. Apart from him, who else would dare to act so arrogantly in Ape Chatter Ridge? I heard that the Grand Guardian of Ape Chatter Ridge is related to Ing Li by blood. Even without the Grand Guardian, Ing Li is strong enough to be ranked in the top 3 among the 10 great territorial lords. He's most likely going to advance to become a high-level fiend demon soon. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he listened to the discussions of the demon beasts around him. However, Ling Hu, Solitary Cloud and the others were secretly shocked with a sense of lingering fear. Monkey frowned as well. The protectors of Ape Chatter Ridge were completely different from the protectors of Howling Moon Mountain. If he was not wrong, the protectors of Ape Chatter Ridge should be high-level fiend demons. To think that a random fiend demon we bumped into would have such a background. Ching Ching sighed. Little Fox asked in confusion, what are the 10 great territorial lords that they're talking about? There are probably hundreds of territories under Ape Chatter Ridge's jurisdiction. Howling Moon Mountain is only one of them, Solitary Cloud explained. Among the hundreds of overlords, the 10 strongest overlords are the 10 great overlords. That person has already threatened us to return. If we enter recklessly and bump into them again, I'm afraid. The Rat King had a worried expression and did not continue. It's fine. Su Zimo waved it off and said indifferently, follow me in. With that said, he led the way into Ape Chatter Ridge. Leading them was an old ape with grayish-white fur. His face was filled with wrinkles and his eyes were cloudy. His footsteps were extremely slow and even looked like he was staggering. The clamor of the demons gradually quietened down. The 10 great territorial lords had different expressions. Some of them sighed. Some of them shook their heads. Some of them had a look of mockery in their eyes. Most of the fiend demons had more shock in their eyes than anything else. Even Su Zimo's mouth was agape with a stunned expression. Was this old ape the legendary overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge? The old ape did not look domineering or imposing like an overlord. He was past his prime and looked old without any vigor. The old ape's movements seemed to be a little sluggish. Although he was unwilling to believe it, Su Zimo knew in his heart that this old ape should be the overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge. That was because the auras of the 5 figures following behind him were simply too powerful. High-level fiend demons. Only high-level fiend demons could exude such might and intimidate everyone. It was said that the overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge had 5 protectors. If he was not wrong, those 5 should be the old ape's protectors. It was beyond everyone's expectations. There was no WRM or Phoenix carriage or Green Luan carriage. There was no majestic aura as the overlord walked out of the forest calmly. Step by step he ascended the high platform slowly. He sat on his mount and heaved a long sigh of relief, as though he had expended most of his stamina. "Heis!" Monkey beside him suddenly sighed and said softly. "He looks rather pitiful as well." Perhaps it was because they were of the same race. Monkey felt a rare sense of pity towards this old ape. Although he was an overlord, it was difficult for him to fight against the cycle of time, and he would eventually age. A hero past his prime. Who wouldn't die? The glory and reputation of the past would eventually dissipate and be drowned in the surging river of time. The 5 protectors followed closely behind the old ape and ascended the high platform. Among them, 2 of the protectors had strange expressions. They seemed to be mocking and excited for a fleeting moment. Suzimo frowned slightly. Right then Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. The feeling of being watched surged into his mind. Suzimo looked over instinctively. On the high platform, the old ape who was leaning back on his chair was looking over. His eyes were cloudy without any emotions and there were no changes in his expression. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. The Mingwang prayer beads could not block the old ape's detection at all. Thankfully, the scarlet-haired Yin spirit was overseeing his consciousness with rumbling demonic qi, and he was not worried about being exposed. Demons surrounded him in the depths of Thousand Demon Valley. If his identity as a human was exposed, he would most likely be torn to shreds instantly. After glaring at Suzimo for a moment, the old ape shifted his gaze to Monkey. The old ape stared at Monkey for an even longer time. A moment later, he retracted his gaze and the wrinkles on his face seemed to have deepened. "Which territory are you guys from?" Suddenly the old ape asked. The demons were stunned and looked at one another in confusion. Although the old ape no longer looked over, Suzimo knew that the old ape was asking about them. Suzimo declared, "Howling Moon Mountain." The moment he said that, countless gazes were attracted. Even the 10 feudal lords standing at the front turned around and looked behind them. When Ingli saw that it was Suzimo's group, he frowned and his expression darkened. "Isn't that the group of low-level fiend demons? They didn't take the territorial lord's words to heart and dared to come here. They truly don't know what's good for them." A fiend demon whispered. Chapter 838. Oh, the old ape heaved a sigh of relief and nodded slightly. "So it's Howling Moon Mountain. I've heard of the fastest rising territory in the past 100 years. The Rat King and the others were invigorated and felt flattered. Suzimo had a calm expression. He could not figure out the old ape's intentions. "Stand over here and let me take a look." The old ape looked at Suzimo's group with a murky gaze and raised his arm, beckoning in a seemingly feeble manner. Monkey looked at Suzimo with a questioning expression. He had a feeling that the old ape was acting strangely and his hair stood on end when he was swept by that murky gaze. What he meant was to ask Suzimo if he felt that something was amiss. They should kill their way out right now. Right now they were standing at the back of the demon horde and might have a chance if they turned and fled. Suzimo shook his head gently. Under the watchful eyes of an overlord, who could escape? Even if the overlord was old, he still had 5 protectors backing him. Taking a deep breath of air, Suzimo parted the demon horde and led the way. Many fiend demons in the surroundings looked at Suzimo's group with scrutinizing, vicious and malicious gazes. Some of the fiend demons even stuck out their scarlet tongues or bared their fangs and claws in an attempt to scare them and embarrass them. The Rat King walked the short few hundred meters with trepidation and was already drenched in sweat. Even Solitary Cloud felt uneasy and his breathing quickened, let alone him. At that moment, if anyone gave the order and the demons swarmed forward, they would be torn to shreds instantly. Among everyone, Suzimo was the only one who had a calm expression and continued forward. An imperceptible look of admiration flashed through the old ape's eyes. That boldness was unmatched by anyone else. A strange feeling rose in Su Zimo's heart. The reason why the old ape wanted him to head forward was partly because he wanted to check out Su Zimo's background. At the same time, he seemed to be interested in Monkey. Before long, Su Zimo's group arrived at the platform and stood side by side with the 10 great territorial lords. Ingli stood beside him. Su Zimo could clearly sense the vicious gazes from the side. Ingli was not the only one. The fiend demons behind him were filled with killing intent as well. The old ape stared at Su Zimo for a while and asked, "You're the leader of Howling Moon Mountain?" "Yes," Su Zimo replied. The old ape chuckled. "If a low-level fiend demon can become a territorial lord, you must have some capabilities. Very good, the younger generation will surpass us in time." "I wouldn't dare." "Senior, you flatter me." Even when facing an overlord, Su Zimo's attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. But after saying this, Su Zimo regretted it. The word senior was commonly used in the cultivation world. In the demonic beast world, almost no demonic beast race knew how to use it, so it was rather jarring to say it out loud. Su Zimo glanced around and saw the old ape frowning. The surrounding demons might not think too much about such a small issue. However, there was a high chance that it would arouse the suspicions of the old ape. This old ape had lived for countless years and even his eyelashes were hollow. What sort of schemes had he not seen before? Although Su Zimo was expressionless, he reminded himself internally. This was not Howling Moon Mountain. He had to be careful from now on. "So it's you ants." Suddenly, a cold laugh sounded beside him. Ingli turned around with a menacing gaze and said coldly, "I remember that I warned you guys outside Ape Chatter Ridge not to let me see you guys again. How dare you come here? You must have a death wish." "Insolent." A protector behind the old ape stood out and hollered. The burly man had a fair face and no beard. However, he was burly and his eyes were like copper bells. His voice was rough and his holler was awe-inspiring. The pale-faced burly man glared at Ingli coldly and said in a deep voice, "You're not qualified to speak when the Overlord is questioning you. Back off." The demons went silent when the Overlord conversed. Even the protectors present could not interrupt casually, let alone Ingli, who was only a mid-level fiend demon. Ingli's aura weakened after being hollered at by the pale-faced burly man, and he shrunk his neck in fear. The other party was a high-level fiend demon after all, and could kill him with a single finger. However, Ingli's gaze circled behind the old ape and he was invigorated. Puffing his chest, he declared loudly, as one of the 10 great territorial lords, "Why can't I speak? These ants are merely low-level fiend demons. How dare they come here to join in the fun? They must have a death wish." A commotion broke out within the demon horde. Just now the old ape praised Su Zimo's group and looked at them in a new light. However, Ingli's sudden words were akin to disregarding an overlord. The old ape did not seem to have heard the quarrel below and slumped deeply into his chair. His head was lowered as though he was already asleep. The pale-faced burly man's expression darkened as he glanced sideways and glared at Protector One, who was not far away. He then turned around and said coldly, "Ingli, how dare you? Who gave you the guts to disregard an overlord and go against me?" There had long been rumors that the Protector One of Ape Chatter Ridge was related to Ingli by blood. Now it seemed like it was true. The pale-faced burly man's words were clearly targeted at Protector One, who was beside him. Protector One lowered his head like an old monk in meditation and did not move at all, as though he did not hear the accusation of the pale-faced burly man. The pale-faced burly man was increasingly enraged and stomped his foot, causing the platform to shake and dust to fly everywhere. He glared at Ingli and said coldly, "I think you're the one who has a death wish." A suppressive aura surged forth. That was the suppressive aura of a high-level fiend demon, and Ingli could not withstand it at all. Blood drained from his face and he nearly knelt on the ground. You're being too serious right then." Another protector stood out and waved his sleeves, dispelling the suppressive aura that the pale-faced burly man exerted on Ingli with ease. "Protector 4. What's the meaning of this?" The pale-faced burly man frowned and looked at the protector beside him, questioning. "The reason why this Ingli is so arrogant is because he's relying on the power of someone else. If we don't punish him, where will the dignity of the Overlord go? Why are you so anxious when the Overlord hasn't even said anything?" Another protector said in a calm tone, Fufu, someone must be used to being arrogant because his grandfather is the overlord and doesn't even allow others to speak, another protector said sarcastically. Second protector, third protector, you guys? The pale-faced burly man looked at the protectors beside him in disbelief, and was so angry that he was trembling. When he heard that, Su Zimo was enlightened. So this pale-faced burly man was the grandson of the old ape and was directly related to him by blood. However, given the current situation, it was most likely no longer a matter of the dignity of the overlord. By the looks of it, something even bigger was about to happen in Ape Chatter Ridge. The pale-faced burly man realized that something was amiss as well and glared at the four protectors with a fierce gaze, asking sternly, "What are you guys trying to do today?" Right then, Protector 1, who had remained silent the entire time, suddenly opened his eyes with a cold glint. Arriving beside the old ape, Protector 1 placed his palm on the old ape's shoulder and patted gently, sighing, "Overlord, you've aged." Chapter 839. You're old. Those three simple words sent chills down the spines of all the demons present. In other words, he meant that it was time for the guardian to give up his position. Protector 1's palm landed on the old ape's shoulder. The old ape did not move at all, as though he did not sense it. When he saw the old ape's reaction, Protector 1 was even more composed and smiled gently. 5,000 years. You've been in this position for way too long. The demons present were in an uproar. Su Zimo swept his gaze. Half of the 10 great territorial lords were indifferent. It was clear that they knew about this beforehand. Ing Li was one of them. Although the other half looked surprised, they shook their heads secretly without saying anything. They could not interfere with the fight for the position of overlord with their strength. Finally, Su Zimo's gaze landed on the old ape. The old ape's white brows were slumped by his mouth motionlessly, as though there were no ripples in his heart at all. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The old ape's reaction was so calm that it was a little strange. Even if he had given up completely, he should not be this calm. The pale-faced burly man's expression turned extremely terrible. He pulled the old ape's chair behind him and said coldly, "If you want the position of overlord, follow the rules and challenge the overlord one-on-one. If you win, the position of overlord will naturally be yours. What's the point of bullying others with numbers?" Protector 1 smiled. "Your grandfather is old, but I'm truly a little afraid if we fight with our lives on the line. I'm the future overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge. Why would I fight with someone who's about to die? Coward." The pale-faced burly man sneered. "Even if you become the overlord of Ape Chatter Ridge in the future, which territorial lord will follow you with that bit of guts?" Protector 1 sneered. "If you don't follow me, are you going to follow that old fogey behind you? Ask him how long more he can live. A year? 2 years? 10 years? The pale-faced burly man was silent. All these years, he had watched the old ape's body age bit by bit helplessly. The pale-faced burly man glanced at the old ape and sighed in his heart. "You've won. We won't be the overlord anymore." With that, the pale-faced man picked up the chair and was about to leave with the old ape. "Wait." The second guardian's figure flashed and blocked the white-faced man's path. He said indifferently, "Who allowed you to leave? What are you doing?" The pale-faced man glared angrily. "Your grandfather has been an overlord for so many years and has countless treasures in his hands. Do you still want to bring them into the ground?" The third protector smiled. "Don't go too far." The pale-faced man was so angry that his arms trembled slightly, and his nostrils flared. "Going too far?" The fourth protector said darkly, "It's impossible for the two of you to walk out of here alive today. You have cultivated to the high-level fiendish demon level at such a young age. If I let you go, you will be a great disaster in the future." At this moment, the old ape suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at Great Protector expressionlessly and asked, "You want to kill them all?" "That's right, I want to kill them all." Great Protector did not conceal his killing intent at all. He had been waiting for this day for way too long. When the old ape was young, he was extremely strong and there was no hope for him to win. Later on, the old ape did not give up his position even when he was old. Not only that, the pale-faced man was extremely talented and even surpassed the old ape. He was already a high-level fiendish demon at such a young age and became one of the protectors. At this rate, the next overlord would be the pale-faced man. As for him, he would never have the chance to ascend to the position of overlord. He was indignant. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that the old one was in his twilight years, and the young one had yet to grow up and kill them both. Ape Chatter Ridge would belong to them. The pale-faced man panted heavily and a layer of fur had already grown on his body, showing signs of reverting to his true form as he snarled. All the demons here can see how you guys are behaving. None of them will submit to you. Ha 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 ha. Great Protector reared his head in laughter and his voice was sharp. A moment later, the laughter stopped abruptly. Great Protector surveyed the surroundings with a cold expression and exuded a tremendous might that shrouded the heads of the demons. He asked murderously, "Who's not convinced?" The demons lowered their heads one after another. None of them dared to meet Great Protector's gaze. Among the 10 great territorial lords, 5 of them led by Ingli appeared instantly and knelt on one knee, cupping their fists. Were willing to submit. Naturally, the fiend demons behind the 5 territorial lords knelt as well. When they saw that, the demons did not dare to hesitate and knelt down one after another, hollering, "We're willing to submit." The remaining 5 of the 10 great territorial lords exchanged glances and sighed internally. Given the circumstances, the 5 of them could only kneel as well. "I'm not convinced." Suddenly a voice sounded. It was extremely ear-piercing compared to the sounds of submission around them. The demons turned towards the voice. Great Protector's expression changed as well as he turned back suddenly. Most of the demons were already kneeling on the ground, and there were only a handful of people left standing. Su Zimo's group was among them. Monkey was enraged and shouted, "There's nothing wrong with wanting to take over the position of overlord. According to the rules, you can challenge the overlord. The overlord is in his twilight years, but you don't even have the guts to do so. How dare you take over the position of overlord?" Perhaps it was because he pitted the old ape who was in his twilight years. Perhaps it was because they were of the same race. Monkey could not hold back any longer. Monkey pointed at Great Protector and shouted, "Furthermore, he has already given up the position of overlord and yet you're still going to kill him. Although I like to fight, I won't bully the old and weak. I can't afford to embarrass myself like that." Ling Hu and the others were delighted to hear that. However, they also knew that Monkey had already gotten himself into huge trouble. He was criticizing a high-level fiend demon. Furthermore, this was an existence that was about to become an overlord. Su Zimo did not say anything. Since Monkey had already made his choice, he would stand behind Monkey unconditionally. "You have a death wish." Great Protector's face was livid and he was enraged. Ingli, who was initially kneeling on the ground, suddenly jumped up and glared at Monkey fiercely, saying coldly, "Uncle, there's no need to be angry. Leave these ants to me. You're still not convinced." As though he had heard the greatest joke in the world, Ingli walked over slowly and sneered. "What rights do a low-level fiend demon like you have to swash?" Suddenly, Ingli felt his vision blur as a figure flashed by. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain in his head. Immediately after, his consciousness sank completely and he did not wake up again. Thud! Ingli's corpse fell to the ground and his head was smashed while his essence spirit was destroyed. The demons were in an uproar. Before Ingli could finish, his head was smashed with a single punch. It was the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain. The demons looked at the green figure with shock in their eyes, as though they had seen a ghost. In such a tense atmosphere where no one dared to move recklessly, the territorial lord of Howling Moon Mountain had actually attacked and killed Ingli, one of the 10 great territorial lords. Even the old ape on the high platform was stunned for a moment before nodding his head, let alone the demon beasts below. The one who attacked was Su Zimo. He was resolute in his killing. Since he had already chosen a side, there was no need for him to say anything more. Resolving the problem with lightning speed was the right way to go. Furthermore, he had had enough of Ingli a long time ago. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.